Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Welcome to the Rockingham Select Board regularly scheduled meeting. The date is September 1st, 2020. We're meeting in the Rockingham Town Hall Lower Theater. There's video access link on the website with a meeting ID. So for the four of us sitting here at the table, for the record, I'd like to note that we have social distance over 6 feet apart. And for the time we'll be sitting here for discussion, we have removed our masks. For those at home wondering. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that shall require ratification at a future meeting? Executive session to update on union negotiations will be added. Anything else, sir or madam?
I have none.
I have none.
Need to approve the minutes, August 4th, 2020 regular meeting. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. The August 4th regular meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Yeah. Assistant planner or planning assistant.
Public comments on items that are not on the agenda. We'll allow 3 minutes per person. I'll start in-house here. None here. Anyone out there?
Channel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, wondering if the town of Rockingham has made any contingency plan to address this bridge construction in the next 6 weeks, Route 5. Ambulance is not going to be able to get there properly to North Shore Trailer Park. What plans have you made to have another ambulance come in from the northern side, or you're going to have go across, go all the way up there? Because I talked with the main office today and they knew nothing about this. I sent them the article.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We had one discussion in public meeting about that. That bridge construction is scheduled for 2023. And the representatives from the state of Vermont heard our concerns loud and clear and have taken them back to the higher ups, is what they said, to seek alternate, to see what else they can do. It wasn't acceptable by the majority of the board and the public to have that bridge closed for 6 weeks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. McPhee, anything? You're muted, sir. You're mute. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
Hi.
Hi there.
Nobody ever says to me they can't hear me. Yes, they. I have not heard anything on the rodent problem in my neighborhood other than from some of you elected officials. I consider that a major health hazard, and I don't think it's just in my neighborhood. I've talked to other people. There are other rodent problems in the village of Bellows Falls, and I consider that a major health hazard in the middle of a pandemic, and I think we need to do something about it, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Manager is nodding his head. Maybe he could meet with you and discuss that.
Thank you for your. And I know you folks are busy, and I know you're busy, Chuck. You just come off a vacation, but at some point when you have an opportunity, it isn't going to take long for you and I to just exchange a brief conversation and see how we proceed from there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. We have 3 properties. We were busy trying to remediate one of those properties that proves to be a habitat for pestilence. That has been largely completed, but as you know, Doug, we have two others that need to be addressed, and they have their own unique circumstances and challenges, but we are definitely aware of and are eager to see those resolved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I can't see any hands. I don't have access to the chat. Shannon, is there anyone else who would like to speak at home that you can see? Okay. Moving along to the agenda. Item number 1 is Gaskill Road reclassification, public hearing. So there's some information here. Chuck, do you want to take the lead here for a moment?
The public hearing is really an opportunity for people to speak up, have any testimony that was discussed at the site visit introduced into record. Andy and I can both go on record that the current road, as upgraded, meets all the standards associated with the VTrans Class 3 roadway. So we see everything to include ditching and the road itself as meeting those standards. Andy, is there anything else you would want to add? That's it. Okay.
Anyone else here today that would like to speak in the public hearing portion? Yes, sir.
Chuck, you weren't at that meeting, unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately. The question arose about abandoning the old turnaround. And I noticed you've got something here saying that there's a little problem that you may or may not want to abandon that. I think it came up in regards to plowing and, you know, whatever, that we would not have to plow that if we gave it up. I think Andy mentioned something to that effect.
That remains an outstanding issue, the abandonment of that turnaround. As we can see from the parcel data that's on your memo, it's rather confusing as to the multiple parcels that front there. And if we were to give that land to any one individual, that would change their frontage. So I don't have an answer for that. It's ultimately, I think, something that the board can pass on to those abutters and see how they want to reconcile this. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's outstanding.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it gives me some indication of which way we're headed, so.
Anyone else on the board? Susan, any comments, questions?
I'm all set, thank you.
One other follow-up, are there any written reports in regards to the gravel and the test pits? I know you mentioned the test pits were written or done. Just curious if we have written documentation for that.
All I have is a summary that the material was there. That was one of the last things that Everett gave to me as he was leaving. So if there's documentation, I haven't seen it. But he confirmed to me, and I added a note in the memo that basically said we had the material necessary for that road.
Correct.
But there's
but
no
I think-
report that I'm aware of.
Correct, but I think we should get something in writing just for the record, yeah, somewhere along the line. Just, it's been done in the past, I think we should continue that. Have it on record anyway, in the town office here.
Andy, did you have any personal experience confirming? Peter, that's a good comment, and we'll make sure that documentation of that depth of material is provided somewhere, recorded.
Okay, I think that'll do it for that portion. If there's no more questions or comments, we could move on to item 2, which is Gaskill Road reclassification. And for those tuning in or who may not know, the board and the landowners up there have spent a lot of time, staff and the homeowners, time and money in this process. Select Board's considering reclassification of an 860-foot segment of Gaskill Road from a Class 4 to a Class 3. There's a ton of information here in front of us. Goes on to say all public process requirements have been met. Talks about the upgrades, talks about abandoning the old turnaround, public hearings, notifications to the shopper, the abutters, which brings us to today. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
The board has up to 60 days to make a decision, but that's your legal right. In terms of maintenance, I would ask us to move more quickly because we're going to be getting that road ready for wintertime plowing, et cetera, and the earlier the better.
And we went up today to a site visit public hearing, and I did notice the BOMAG or the roller, whatever it's termed, is sitting at the bottom. They had just graded and compacted the lower portion. As a layperson, I would have to think that the improvements to that road had something to do with the upper half becoming a much higher quality road. And I think, like Chuck just stated, now would be the time to finish the other 860 feet should we take action here tonight. Yes, sir.
One follow-up question for Andy. Are we going to be doing roadside mowing on those, around those ditches? I noticed going up there today, there's a lot of overgrowth in there. And
Yes, nothing on that side of the hill has been roadside mowed yet. The mower's been down again. We had some issues with the transmission, and it's just back up and running. The guy fixed it today, and it's going to be back out. We're going to start at Darby Hill and work north.
thank you.
Anything else from the board? Anyone in the public? I think we might have lost Susan. Anyone from the public wish to state anything today? I'd like to thank everyone involved. Like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of time and money by these homeowners spent here to improve this section of road. There's a motion, entertain a motion if,
I move that the Rockingham Select Board approve the reclassification of the 860-foot section of Gaskill Road as shown on the DiBernardo Associates survey plans dated August 21st, 2020.
I'll second.
the motion has been made and seconded to approve the reclassification. So do we want to add anything about the 60-day as far as getting the work done, Chuck? Just that motion will suffice.
That motion suffices.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion motion passes. Thank you all very much. Thank you, folks. Number 3, Rockingham Highway Department updates. We have a number of updates here, and we have Andy Howarth is on the mic.
All right. Chip sealing has been completed on Grizzle Drive and Brockway Mills. We've completed Holland Sand, 4,500 yards. Crosswalks have been painted. We're still working on some of the schools that need to be painted. We've done several of the parking lines, downtown, parking lots, in Bells Falls and Saxon River. Roadside mowing is still ongoing. As I just stated here a few minutes ago, the mower has been down again. It's just back up and running, so hopefully we can get back to that now. We've been hot mixing, brush cutting. We're in the process, too, of building the road connecting Hyde Hill over to Bramley Way for the Hyde Hill Drainage Project, which is going to be starting September 15th. Should be 3 to 4 weeks long. We just had an auction from Auctions International. We got rid of some old equipment. We had our old equipment trailer, an old plow, an old sander, a couple old sanders, and we had an old water truck that we got rid of. We made a little over $10,000 on that. Manager's parking lot's been paved. The traffic lights at Red Light Hill, we're looking at upgrading them to LED. We have a estimate of a little over $4,800 for that. And yep, that's it.
So the Griswold Drive chip sealing, I was reading, was there other chip sealing, or that's what you were referencing?
Yeah, everything on Grizzle Drive, all the side roads up there, and Brockway Mills was chip sealed.
I've got a lot of compliments about the work that took place on Grizzle Drive, so I'd like to thank your crew and the other folks who did all that work. I've heard nothing but good things up there. And for the roadside mowing, I have a question about the Skeeto. Did that get mowed? Do we plan to mow it? Will our machine mow it?
No, it has not been mowed. Years past, Bucky Adams has always done it with a brush hog because the hill's so steep and trying to turn around on that hill with the mower, it takes a lot longer with our mower. It's like, I think, a 2.5 day process with our mower. Bucky Adams can get it done in a little over a day.
And what, do you know the cost?
I'm not sure. That would be a question for Ryan Studley.
And then, do we have plans to do it? I guess that's it, but if maybe Chuck can get those answers.
Yep, as the Skeeto's run by the rec center.
One more comment, the manager's parking lot also was painted, right?
Yep.
You took personal,
Yeah, I marked it out and painted it out, yes.
it looks really nice, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Not from the board, but I was up on Grizzle Drive, a much better chip seal.
Push the red button, Mr. McPhee. Your mic is muted, sir.
There we go.
There we go.
I was up on Griswold Drive and a much better chip seal than we received on Rockingham Street. I mean, that is a very, very good job and renewed my faith in chip seal. I don't know what happened on Rockingham Street, but certainly they look way different. Thank you.
I'll agree with that. And I was up there the day after they did it, and the first thing I noticed was it seemed all the material was sticking to the surface. The amount on the sides of the road on Rockingham Street the day after was my immediate concern. But it just looks phenomenal. It's hard to even tell it's chip seal, actually. Anyone else?
Gaetano,
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you, we had a disgruntled employee leave the highway department yesterday. He's very upset. He got up there from first entry. He was picked up later last night for drunk driving by the state police. And he also threatened our town manager's life.
It's not appropriate, Jim, to discuss that, nor is it related to this agenda item. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you. Sorry, I can't discuss that. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Andy, and the rest of your crew. Thank you guys very much. Number 4.
Wait a minute, you gotta do the traffic light thing.
Okay, we're doing that right now. Yep. So, item J under 3, we have some information here about upgrading the traffic lights at Red Light Hill to LEDs, which Andy mentioned. So, we have a memo here with a bunch of information. Does anyone, do you want to give some background to that, or do we want to discuss any questions? What do we want to do?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer. I've
Yes, sir.
advocated that years ago. I actually had a set ready to roll, but irregardless, I think it's a good thing. I'm going to make the motion that the select board move to approve the conversion of the Red Light Hill traffic signal to LED lights.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to upgrade the traffic lights to LEDs. So are you going with the estimate? Does that need to be in your motion?
I can include that. Maybe go back to the.
I had a question about that. Do you want to put a number in that motion?
Well, we're going not to exceed 5.
Okay, yeah,
There you
I'll
go.
go with not to exceed $5,000.
Amended to not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
Discussion.
Do we know where in our budget this is gonna come from? We have funding in the budget?
Well, it would fall under highway, would it not?
Obviously, but I don't know where we stand on any of these things at the moment. So I'm just asking if there is money there for something
Right, I
that wasn't budgeted.
Can we get a report, Mr. Chairman? Does Shannon have an idea for these? We have a substantial reserve there, last I recalled.
Correct. For the highway department,
Yeah.
we have a substantial reserve in the highway department because we, well, first of all, we are already short highway staff. We will continue to work understaffed, and then the public works director was funded, and we are not going to have that position hired.
Yeah. That traffic light has been a concern many years, has had its ailments and ills. And I think stepping into the 21st century from incandescent to LED lighting is the right way to go.
And in the memo, it states the money saved in years. Any idea
Yeah.
how long? Does that company tell us how many years it takes to pay for itself?
I don't see that here when I read the estimate, but evidently LED is going to use a lot less energy. So, plus the labor time that we'd save, plus the safety factor of making sure that that light will hopefully be intact more times than it's out of service, and it'll be in
So-
service, so.
So this estimate here is replacing the actual fixtures?
Bulbs.
Why does it say rather than running 32 separate bulbs that burn out, we can refit the lights for LED? So they're just replacing the bulbs?
Yes, correct. There's 32 lights at that intersection, because they're just going to come in and replace all the bulbs.
And
the
this
LED bulbs.
year, in particular, the last couple of weeks when the thing kept, as a fan or some fan failed and it was overheating in the heat. So this will, so that was a separate thing down on the pole, right?
Yes.
Will that new bulbs run more cooler? And
I'm not sure of that, because inside there's a box at by the common. There's a power supply, and then there's a modem, and there's a fan that's mounted to the top to keep both of those cool. And the fan crapped out, and we were having problems with it overheating. And we replaced both the power supply and the modem. But I don't think the LEDs will make it run cooler. No. But I can't. I'm not an expert on it, so I could find out.
I think definitely an LED bulb will be running cooler than an incandescent or halogen heat-wise. But also at the time when we had that issue, did we not talk about having a spare fan on hand just in case that happened again or something?
Yep, Lawrence and Lober has one on hand now.
Right.
They ordered one.
So.
Anything else? Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Select board approved reclassification, to change the conversion to LEDs not to exceed $5,000. All those in favor would signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Thanks again.
Yep.
Now we can move on to item number 4. It's an access request. We all have that information. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
more for Chuck than anyone else. Is this, I know there's something in zoning about green space on apartments. Is this driveway going to eliminate that green space or anything that green space that's around that building? It doesn't look like there's much, look at that picture, there's not much room down there.
So you're referencing lot coverage for residential 7 zoning district. And the lot, it's a relatively large parcel. It goes right up to Kisses Keefe Road. So I don't think we're going to come anywhere near the lot coverage requirements. It is true that the section that would be north of the house is relatively all just gravel. That southern portion right there between the town's fence and the building is green. Right now it's grass. But, and so yes, that would be eliminated, but she would still meet all the zoning requirements.
Okay.
So what is that, Chuck? Just like a 7,000 square foot green space requirement or something?
Yeah, Peter's citing, the lot coverage cannot exceed 33%, that kind of thing. But
Right.
the acreage on that parcel, because it just goes right up the hill.
Yep.
His comment would be accurate, I'd say 99.9% of the time, except
Yep.
for those few parcels that have that configuration.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I'll make the motion that we approve the access permit for 17 Myrtle Street.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve access 17 Myrtle Street. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Item number 5. Bellows Falls Opera House Nonprofit Operations Presentation and Proposal Review. So there's a ton of information here. I will wait and let's see if we have,
I'm here.
okay, why don't you go first, Charlie?
All right, I'll just read a little.
That's okay with everyone.
Is that? Yeah.
We're ready. We're ready.
Okay. I'm just going to read this brief statement. It's basically what you all have, but just to recap. With small town single screen movie theaters endangered by both COVID and the rise of streaming as a viable distribution mechanism for movie studios, we must adopt a more nimble model for moving the Bellows Falls Opera House into the future. Bellows Falls residents Sean Long, Marty Gallagher, and myself have gathered together as an unpaid volunteer board to create a nonprofit entity to help preserve the treasure and traditions that make up the Opera House and sustain it and grow it into the future. Since I last came before you in August, we've been joined by an awesome team. The absolute key part of this proposal, the people who know how the movies, concessions, and infrastructure at the Opera House work. Jennifer Tolero Heidbrink, Tim Heidbrink, Sean Douglas, Josh Mosher, and Ella, and I'm going to murder her name, Cadman-Torrey. Together, they've got over 45 years experience at the Opera House. We've spoken to and expect Sean Roberts of World Under Wonder Theater in Ascutney to take on the role of very part-time live events coordinator, because that's the one part of the skill set that those, I call them the movie brain trust, that they don't have. We've met with local theatrical organizations. We've studied the potential of several cashless ticketing systems. We've run many, many, many spreadsheet reports, and someday I'll run one without immediately discovering multiple mistakes in it. Which I can always talk about my mistakes, but I can also talk about what I think we're getting right in the spreadsheets. Post-COVID, the Opera House is going to be facing enormous challenges. Venue capacity may be slashed. The trend toward cashless transaction is only going to increase. Our downtown businesses are facing strong headwinds. We've got to be ready with a more nimble, synergistic model that involves all segments of the town: citizens, businesses, schools, civic organizations. We have to be on our game. Nearby towns with municipally owned theaters, Claremont Opera House, Lebanon Opera House, Pentangle Arts, the old Woodstock Opera House, all have adopted the model of operation by a nonprofit. Our plan preserves the things that people seem to really treasure. I mean, you guys who know, you know my paintings. My paintings are about the hollowing out of New England. This is a thing that I am good at, is arts management. And this is a tradition that I can keep alive. This is a thing I can do, that we can do for this town. We're going to keep family-friendly, first-run films at $6 admission. So that's up from $5. So that's the increase. That'll be going year-round. And the iconic triple up, soda, popcorn, and candy for $5 is going to continue. There will be occasional concerts, and during times of the year when blockbuster-type movies are less prevalent, 2 or 3 theatrical productions annually will be welcomed. We intend to continue the popular classic film series and hope at some point to add a classic matinee, especially tailored toward our seniors. Projecting annual utility costs of $18,000, the approximate allotment in fiscal year 2019, in the first year of operation. Our monthly rental payments of $1,500 a month will result in a fiscal year 2019 $49,000 operational loss being turned into a break-even situation. In future years, rent increases to $1,750 a month, then $2,000 a month, plus a percentage of revenues over a certain threshold. We project possible gain to the town coffers of $18,000 a year by 2024. Challenges facing us, COVID aside, include implementing a system for cashless ticketing and concessions, creating a dedicated and functional website, replacing obsolete concession equipment, creating a secure climate-controlled storage space for concessions, reapplication of fireproofing to the curtains, making the facility ADA compliant, improving traffic flow in the lobby area, increasing bathroom capacity, adding soundproofing and other improvements so that the lower theater can be better utilized, not to mention lighting, sound, projection, and other upgrades coming down the road. We will continue to host public Zoom meetings to answer questions and hear suggestions from citizens. We look forward to working with the town to work out an operating lease that will meet the needs of all of us. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to speak on this item right now, or? Yeah, so step up and just make sure the button is green, and just for the record, identify yourself.
I'm Jennifer
Just take a minute.
Jennifer Gurley, owner of Rockingham Roasters and the Yellow Building on the corner. And I just wanted to, this is just a brief question. So the movie theaters would go from losing $50,000 in 2019 to being in the black, $18,000 by 2024. That's kind of a summary of the numbers.
That's one scenario that I can plausibly draw. You know, we don't really know. No one knows what the post-COVID world is going to look like. The numbers that I plugged in to get that basically are using the attendance as it was in fiscal year 2019. It's buttoning up some income streams we think we could do better on. And it is the main thing that really encompasses is getting the per head concession profit from concerts and live theater to match the per head concession profit from movies. And that means a lot more partnership with downtown businesses. And, you know, can we do that? Don't know. I think we've got a really good shot at doing it.
We can do anything if we figure it out. No is not the answer. No. Everybody says no, don't to everything. So I'm excited about the idea. I'd like to see more of the details we could talk about. But the bottom line again, I think that's an interesting idea. So we go from losing $50,000, and it seems like we lost money every year, to gaining $18,000 while providing the same services plus more, kind of some, right?
That's what we're hoping for.
Okay. No, thank you. I just want to clarify. Thank you.
So I'll have a statement.
Before we go any further, I would like to request that each member here that works for the Opera House state your name and just let everybody know who you are. So let's start with you, Tim, and then we can just work our way down.
Or, in my opinion, if you have anything else you'd like to add, feel free. This is the time for discussion. You want to do more than just introduce yourself? Feel free. Don't be shy.
My name's Tim Heidbrink, and I've been working at the Opera House for 15 years. So I think Charlie's proposal is something that will really help the Opera House take off, especially with what we got going on right now. I think post-COVID, hopefully we can turn this into a better facility and be able to offer more to the town, such as the live plays and stuff. It has lacked it. I do know that a long time ago when we were doing live shows that there was quite the crowd coming in. I know that we did the Logger quite a while back, and it sold out 2 nights in a row on a weekend, which helps the downtown tremendously. So,
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Tolero Hyde-Brink, and I've been working for the Opera House for 16 years. And I wrote a letter to the board, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think it's important to thank the loyal customers out there who have been continuously coming, picking up triple ups, or just giving us their support through social media or seeing us out in the streets. So we really appreciate that. And to also thank the staff that dedicated their time, especially the high schoolers that came every weekend when they signed up to donate their time to sell triple ups. And I just want to read the last paragraph of my letter. As Mr. Hunter stated in his proposal, the wild card of COVID-19 has forced opportunity upon us. When the pandemic is over and a degree of normalcy returns, the town of Rockingham needs to be ready to move forward. We are unfortunately not the only entity that is ready to move forward. The movie theater industry is threatened to go dark for good. Studios have seen the potential for releasing movies straight to digital format. We must use the resources and knowledge that we have to push forward and show how resilient the Bells Falls Opera House can be. Our team will use outside-of-the-box strategies to engage moviegoers while increasing our goal of becoming an interactive movie theater. Our movie theater is much more than a place to see a show. It is the cornerstone of our community, a place where you can have your first job, a gathering place for families and friends, a place where you can laugh and cry all at once, a real place where everyone knows your name. And the last piece is we are having a triple up palooza on Saturday from 4 to 7, so we hope everyone can make it.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Mosier. I've worked at the Opera House for 7 years plus. I have issuing support for Charlie's plan. It makes sense. Help preserve the theater. It's not many places that have a screen like ours and a sound system like ours, or the prices that we have to see first run or second run movies. And I definitely would like to see more concerts and more plays too as well. But I, anyway, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ella Kadamatori. I've been at the Opera House for 8 years this August. I come from both a theater background and working upstairs, obviously. I was a theater major for most of college, and I love this place. Everyone who knows me knows this is my fun job. This is the job I've kept through 2 maternity leaves, college, getting married and moving an hour away. This is the job I always want, because I don't. The staff here has become my family, and to have that starting out in college and still having it almost 10 years later is incredible. And I think that high schoolers working in this area should be able to experience that, even if it's just their first job and they're not here for long. I think it's a very important, vibrant staff and place to work for everyone, even if you've been in town for 15 years. Thank you.
My name's Brooke Bennett. I've been there for 3 years, and I just grew up coming to the movie theaters on Friday night when I was younger. I can't wait to see what the theater is coming in the future.
Thank you guys very much. As years of passion and dedication right there, and to hear them all support this new idea, for them to be here tonight, for them to come here Saturday, I think
Yeah, let me talk to you about that. These folks have given so much of their own time to volunteer themselves to bring that passion that you just heard to the Opera House, cleaning up what needed to be cleaned up, organizing, educating Charlie and myself on how to run a profitable model, entrepreneurial in spirit, community-minded. I cannot thank you all enough, and I appreciate it, really. I will acknowledge that Charlie's proposal, this is a big change. It's something I'm more familiar with. Most municipalities have a nonprofit running their theater, so that is my background. So that is more typical for me. It's atypical to see a municipality try to run an opera house directly. That said, this will take months to get correct. There's all sorts of details to work out. And it's this group of impassioned folks who say that that's going to take a little too long. Our Opera House needs to be a resource for our community today. If you listen to Jen, it should be even earlier than today. But, but be that as it may, we will begin a plan to be COVID-19 compliant and to start running movies as soon as possible. This will be a model that we run just temporary. It's not going to be long-term until something like Charlie's proposal gets aired and there's a decision one way or the other.
Yes, so I just want to say quickly, I was stating the passion and dedication. I can feel it in everyone who spoke so far, from Charlie to these folks behind me. So the first thing, as sitting on this board, and I've been going to this movie theater for 40-something years, sneaking in the side door in middle school, perhaps, to the last movie that was played up here before we were told we couldn't. See? The second act's getting ready. Intermission's over. So the one thing I heard the most from folks was the concern to not change the what many consider, what I consider very affordable movie price and the triple up. So there was a lively discussion on the internet. For the most part, stayed civil when more information came aboard. And the biggest concern, I think, was that the price of the movies and the triple up wouldn't change no matter what happened. And often people fear change. So once more information came out, it's been stated clear, and again tonight, that it won't change. It will go up $1. So for a family of four to attend a movie upstairs is under $50, including a soft drink, large popcorn, and a candy. You can't do that anywhere around here. And I do believe this is the biggest movie screen in the state of Vermont. Is that correct? So let's just say you travel to Keene, you'd be spending $100 for a family of four, and probably hear the movie next door to you on a little screen. It's nothing like the experience here. So the concern for many folks, from people who are new to people who have been here forever, was keeping that little gem, the affordable pricing and the triple up. So it seems clear in this plan that won't change. The next thing, as someone who sits on this board who helps prepare a budget, is not losing money year after year here. And just one last question. In the letter it said upgrades to equipment, popcorn machine, but didn't we budget for a popcorn machine?
No.
It came up? Okay, and then
We discussed it, but we don't.
I also would like to know, as far as opera houses or movie theaters go, Lebanon, or no, wait, what are the two? Not many municipalities are operating them. Most everyone in the state of Vermont is operated by a third party of sorts, nonprofit entertainment industry. Is that right? There's like two left in Vermont? Anybody knows? Just as far as, I think Charlie knows, but.
I only know about municipally owned. That's all I've investigated. I do not know about independently run movie theaters.
And then last,
Pentangle Arts in Woodstock is the only one I could find, and Josh and Tim and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but Pentangle operates as a first-run movie theater. Most of the other facilities have like film series and stuff, but I see my role here as taking the thing I'm good at, which is arts management, and facilitating this incredible team who they'd be doing it for free. They love this movie theater, and my job is to facilitate that, and I'm so moved by their passion and love for it.
Yes, I was going to go on, but I've said enough. I support this theater and these people's passions, and I've seen, from the Vermont Symphony Orchestra, the Chris Whitley tribute, to the best AC/DC cover band that Josh Hearn brought here. I mean, I miss those things, and every movie in between. So I think it's something we're all proud of and hope to see continue in a affordable way for the taxpayers and in a new direction here in 2020. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to, everybody thinks I'm the naysayer and the negativity guy here, but I'm always looking at the dollars, as Gaetano just said. I'm very open to this proposal, Charlie. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Some of your questions, or some of the questions I had, were answered by your email this afternoon that I got about 2 o'clock, and I haven't had really a good chance to sit down and look at the numbers. But let me throw some questions at you and see where we can go.
Absolutely.
Are you planning to use town funds to finance this nonprofit organization?
No.
So what happens to the budget? Maybe Chuck or Shannon can answer. What happens to the budget we currently have?
Like they said, this is probably going to take a couple of months to transition, but we just would not incur the expenses or the revenue that we have in the budget. But it would wash each other out.
If I can jump in on that, you would still have the Opera House is allotted, the utility bill is an allotment. And I believe it is 37% of the heat and electricity is allotted to the Opera House. So there'll be less electricity consumed. I mean, I don't see this model that we're talking about really emerging until, sometime in 2021, and whether that's in April or whether it's in June, we don't know what the world's going to look like. But so you're still going to have some amount of heating and electricity going on in the Opera House. So that expense is still going to continue no matter what. But with the positions, I think Josh is putting in a few hours a week, kind of overseeing social media. There'll be some expenses with this this interim, showing occasional movies thing going on. But that isn't, I'm keeping out of that because I don't want to get drawn into, making sure someone's there to unlock. I want the movie team to be handling that. So I think a lot of the expenses in the budget will go away, but all the revenue in the budget will go away. So.
So part of it, we are going to try to expense to COVID because we cannot run the facility. So we're looking to receive federal funds for that. But if we don't, we're running at minimal expenses, doing the best we can with the current situation, and coming up with some ideas, like they are going to do another triple up for money. So that's the interim. But once Charlie would take over, the nonprofit would take over, our budget, if it was before the new fiscal year, we wouldn't have revenue or expenses.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically as things progress down the road until the group actually takes over, then the current existing budget would be eating the expenses?
Well, as the movie theater sits right now.
I mean, because right now you're looking at, your employees and wages cost you $134,000 a year.
We're,
So.
for
I'm
instance,
just-
last week, we only paid one employee 5 hours for advertising. We're not paying the staff. They're all hourly employees. We don't have that cost. What we're still paying right now would be heat and or we're not air conditioning the theater, but heat for the theater, electricity. But we're not purchasing movies, we're not purchasing candy, we're not purchasing soda. We don't have concessions. We're not doing any of those expenses, and we have no staff.
So in the future, any employees and benefits that they're offered or whatever will be paid by the nonprofit?
Once they're up and running.
design?
For right
okay,
now.
I just, yeah.
Yeah, if we do a triple up right now, the town will be
Yeah,
paying.
I get that. I'm just trying to, like I say, I haven't had a chance to look at Charlie's numbers. It looks real interesting the way it's spread out, Charlie, but I'll spend some time.
Absolutely. The numbers, just so when you do look at it, and I can post this, I'll post it on the, I'll give it to Josh, or Josh can post it, but we can put it up on Friends of the Opera House. I mean, it's totally transparent, but all of the staffing, the page that's devoted to expenses, all that staffing, the Movie Brain Trust, they sat down and they went over what they anticipate the needs are being. This is their staffing estimation. So that it's coming with a great deal of experience. There is additional staffing that I have put for during a concert and during a theatrical performance. And that's, there's always some guesstimation in here, but it's all pretty realistic. And the figures that I use for expenses are all drawn from town reports over the last 5 years. So it's still so conjectural. I mean, who knows what's going to work, but the numbers that we're using are based in a verifiable reality.
Okay, one thing I did find, it was interesting, you mentioned the $49,000 loss. Actually, if you take the interest expense of $33,500 that was allotted, we budgeted, but on page 39 of the town report, it shows it was never expended. There's a fat zero sitting there.
That's separate.
But in ensuing years, we're budgeting again for the interest expense. I assume what's going to happen is that $33,500 for 2019 will end up going into the 2020 budget. I can ask Shannon, but I can't believe the bank or whoever holds that bond is saying we didn't have to pay the interest for 1 year.
He's just using those years as an example, so the interest will be there, and he is assuming the interest will be there. It's on a different line item in his projections. It's down below.
So you're saying it's in there? It's not in there according to the budget.
Well, and to clarify, the nonprofit is not assuming the interest and principal on the bond.
I agree with that, Charlie. I understand that. And I'm just amazed that the $33,500 interest is still being stuck to the theater currently, and it should be in the debt service. That's where the bond principal is. So it just amazed me that we got that in there. But anyway, that's another question. Also, you mentioned that there's $10,000 for improvements that was in the budget. I've been through that several times. I don't see anything in this one or the 2021 budget that we just did last year. So I'm just curious where you found the $10,000 that you're going to match.
Bear with me just a moment. Oh, that's part of the fun of negotiation, Peter. I'm going to ask the town to promise to kick in 10 grand a year that we'll match for these capital improvements. I saw that in, hang on a second, some expense. Fun part, isn't it? revenues budget. Oh, no, it'd be an expense. It'd be an expense, right?
39, if you got the town report there, Charlie. I got a copy right here in front of me.
Yes, page 39. So repairs and maintenance, I had that down as repairs and maintenance, equipment, repairs and maintenance facility. I rolled that figure into 10 grand.
Well, that's understandable. That's what we budgeted, but the actual amount that was spent that you show under expenses there that's shown the 7185, 6420, that was just regular repairs and maintenance that happened to the machinery.
Right.
And that doesn't include buying anything in the future. Usually what's happened when we do that is an item on the town warning that asks for voter approval to spend money, to raise the money to buy the projector. When that went up, that was 75,000, I believe. Somebody can correct me a number on that number. That was voted at town meeting.
I think he's just trying to make a proposal to say that as a renter, he's willing to contribute 10,000 if the town's willing to match it each year for capital improvement.
Okay, but that's not what his information sheet says. That's why I'm just bringing these up. So going forward in 2022, as it stands now, would be the first opportunity the coming winter when we do the budget would be our first chance to be throwing the 10,000 in. Because the current budget doesn't have any money in it.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just, I'm just thinking there's going to be all the ongoing maintenance, repairing the chair, all that
I get it.
stuff.
I follow where you're going.
But then there are going to be these big things, or they're going to be the small things like the popcorn machine, and then they're going to be the big things like eventually the new projector. I just want to be both sides, both the town and the nonprofit, be whether it's a rainy day fund or it's just that we're both cognizant that there's going to be these expenses and we should be planning for them rather than just slamming the taxpayer 1 year for them or trying to do a big capital campaign.
I get it. I've done these budgets for 9 years, Charlie. I'm familiar with the whole process.
You probably do it a lot better than I do. I just wing it. You didn't mention anything about liability insurance. Are you guys going to carry that, or is that going to be anticipated the town's going to carry it? No, we anticipate carrying that. I have a line item in operational expenses, liability insurance at 6,000, which seems low to me, but in talking with other facility managers of kind of comparable rooms, that's about what they're saying they pay for.
Okay, how about the cleaning now? I know, I'll end it with that, but the cleaning, I know that it has to be done after all the shows, not necessarily between one show and the other, because you only got a half an hour generally between shows. But at the end of the day, and that can get kind of lengthy. Mm-hmm. And now with COVID-19, that's going to even add more because it's going to be more detailed.
Absolutely, and we took that into account. That is taken into account in the numbers, in the staffing hour numbers. And I believe Jen and the Movie Brain Trust can drill down on this, but I believe it used to be that on a blockbuster movie, they could do 4 screenings on a Saturday, but now we're anticipating that with COVID between show cleaning, we're really going to be limited to doing 3 shows on a Saturday. So the hours, I'm sorry, I have a cat who kind of wants to help, and I'm trying to fight the cat off as I'm talking to you. Okay, I'm getting the cat anyway. Here's the cat. There is still, you'll see there's a line item, rubbish custodial, 10,525, which is also taken from the town report. And whether that would be something we would contract with the town to do, or whether that is an expense that it's something we'd just do. It's still going to be an expense on our side. And then, as I say, the between show wipe down is is in consideration, it's taken into consideration in the hours that the Movie Brain Trust gave me.
Yeah, no, that's good, and everything else that's gonna go on, I know this is a moving target down the road, so, you know, all the improvements, I know in the email that we got today from Chuck, they're gonna go and rip out all the popcorn machine and the soda machine, the ice machine, that's all going, so hopefully they're not gonna do it tomorrow, but, it's kinda leery when he says start doing that. And as you know as well as I do, if you don't run some of that equipment, you're looking at more issues besides COVID-19. I mean, there's Legionnaire's disease with all the air conditioning stuff and things like that you could be dealing with. And I think Gary in his next proposal's got something to do with the air conditioning, the air transfer system that we have currently. So
yeah, and candidly, that's part of what my why I am not eager to have the nonprofit immediately assume operations. I mean, we don't know how many months this limbo is going to continue, you know.
yeah, and then as a backup comment to what Gaetano said earlier about the Facebook stuff, I've been reading some of that, and I think our conversation tonight will ease the mind trust out there a little bit more, saying that I think a lot of people think this is going to happen overnight, and I think that's what's caused all this stir out there. But I'm intrigued by it. I got a lot more questions once I study your stuff. So
absolutely,
but it's interesting. And I agree with you. We got to do something because even my neighbor streams. He doesn't go to the movie. So, you know, I get it. So,
Anybody else?
Gaetano?
Hold on, Mr. Mitchell. I'm gonna check with my board. Ben, anything?
No, I'm all set.
Susan?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. First of all, as a nonprofit, I would assume you would be open up to more grants than the municipality necessarily would be for certain things, whether it's improvements or even putting on shows and things that would reach out to the population. So I think that's a nice positive aspect of this. Not to put a ringer in it, but I don't know whether technically we need to put this whole thing out to bid, or if it's in a level that, I mean, we can just do it as a contract with a non-profit. That I don't know. So that's something Chuck would have to look into. I mean, I can't imagine anyone else would want to take this on, but I don't know if legally we need to put it out to bid. So I'm just raising that as a question. But other than that, I mean, I'm very supportive of the idea, and but yeah, there's a lot of kinks to work out, but I have faith that can be done.
Great, thank you. Stefan?
Yep, I support the idea. I read what Charlie has said, and there's been some past communication. We all don't know where we're going to end up with COVID and after November, et cetera, and after the first of the year. I just want to make sure that whoever's here sitting on these boards and whatever committees, that they have a place to meet also.
Yes, that it is entirely.
Yeah, I saw that.
The town would still have access at no charge.
So my last question is, with all this more discussion, more information, the willingness and staff and plan, what needs to happen now? What needs to happen now?
From the management's perspective, we'd like to see not necessarily a vote from the select board, but some measure of consensus that this is worthy of our attention, worthy of investing resources on it. You know, for instance, a lease agreement and other materials have to be produced. So far, we've been doing this largely on our own time. But at this point, I think we've reached a degree of seriousness that you all have to give us direction.
Mr. Chairman, I think if I could, one of the items that has recurred over the last few years here, but there's been nothing done about, and I know there was some conversation I saw in one of the communications here earlier. I think now would be the time when we don't have a lot of people in there and we're not using this facility like, for example, the curtains. We talked about getting them fireproof and sprayed or whatever it is a few years ago here, actually several years ago. Hasn't happened yet. I would think, in my opinion, that would be one of the first priorities, because whether there's people in here or not, we want to make sure that if there was an issue, we don't burn the building down.
That's at the forefront of my mind, just getting our house in order. Yes, the drapes, we have a quote. We're going to move forward on that, take advantage of that. That's one of several issues that we've been trying to address to make sure whatever this next chapter is, it's done so well.
So from hearing your response, is it I think Susan said she agreed, Stefan supported it. I very much support it. So is entering into a negotiation of sorts what you're looking for? Do we need to begin having the authorization for you to begin negotiating this?
Yes, and that can just be as broad as that. Just even trying to find time with the attorney to say what would an agreement like this entail. Okay. We have other models out there. Let's see what that's about. But we really need to get as precise as possible to answer some of these serious questions.
So would we like a formal consensus of the board to direct the manager to begin the work to enter the process of this presentation? I support moving forward, including legal work and everything that needs to be done. I think he's not sure if we want to move in that direction, and I support that. Stefan, do you support that decision?
Well, I think we need to explore more and get more information.
Well, I think that's the process that he's going to do. They're not signing any deals. Nobody's signing any deals. They're exploring the process, correct?
Correct.
No one is signing any deals, so make that very clear that everyone in the public hears that. We're going to explore this process to begin finding out if this will work. Yes, sir.
Well, that was my concern. We just got these numbers from Charlie today, and I myself personally would like to look them over. I don't have a problem with moving forward, but I'm not sure that I kind of sign on to the fact of providing a lease agreement. But if we want to check into it and come back in a couple of weeks, at that point, let us where we are. I know there's a bunch of stuff that's got to be worked out, such as the amount and everything else. It's just going to take time. Well,
I think that's just the direction they'll go if we support that, is doing all the work.
Well, according to the email, Chuck was looking to draw up a lease agreement. That's why I was just making that statement.
I think a lot needs to be worked out before that can happen.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's true. But
the way I'm getting it is I'm perceiving a fact-finding mission coming back to the board and then going over the information and coming up with an assessment and then moving forward with whatever mechanism.
Correct.
If we were to go into an agreement of some type.
Yes, and the lease agreement is not something to be afraid of. It's not to be executed by management. It's a vehicle by which you all will understand how to transfer some authority as it regards to the cinema and those operations over to a nonprofit model. So that's going to be the crux of all this, is that agreement. So you all have to see something in draft. You have to see something moving forward that you begin to sink your teeth into.
Excellent. Susan, are you okay with that process?
I'm okay with that process. I mean, I don't know whether we need to, I don't know how much it's going to cost the town for legal expenses and all that, but I'm assuming they'll keep them as low as possible. And also, I mean, I really would like an answer on the procedure. I mean, do we just have to be advertised, and then people, I just don't know what the procedure is to turn over part of the town property to a nonprofit, and I just want clarification on that. And I'm sure this process will do that.
Understood. Very well, thank you. So I don't know, we don't need a motion then, right? We do need a motion.
No, you don't.
Okay,
I have my
great.
direction. Thank you.
Thank everyone very much. Thank you, Charlie.
John,
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, Mr. Mitchell.
I
Yes, sir.
I started working in that theater when I was a boy, when Tony Russo ran it. I'm talking in the late 50s. What Charlie's proposing, I endorse. I would hope that we would have a banker take a look at the numbers and do a DMD down Brad Street. He was talking about all this firepower that he had behind him. I want to know that these people are credible and they can actually solve it, that they can step in. What you're talking about here is the same thing as what we went through with Berger. A promissory note for $1 will send all our problems to Rockingham. Well, this is a reverse process. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I support any creative idea when it comes to theater and arts. But what he's suggesting, we could do with one manager and a couple of volunteers. We've already run one theater company out of this town, and now he wants to bring another one back.
No,
So
we're just, that's 1 minute, Mr. Mitchell, but listen.
Yeah, I know.
They're beginning the process to figure all these things out, and it's not a promissory note, it'd be a lease agreement.
Yeah.
I want the money. Show me the money.
Well, no, I agree with that, but I don't think I don't foresee another inflatable boat company.
Correct. All right. Anyone else in the public have any comments they wish?
There was in the chat that there was somebody who wanted to make a comment.
Okay, can you see their name, Susan?
Rena Morin.
All right, should I see her there? I don't know. Yep. Do you see us? She has her hand up. If you unmute, there you go. You're on.
Hi, I'm a mom of 3 little kids, and we love going to that theater. It's a beautiful, beautiful old school theater. The only beef I have is when they run like adult movies for 3 weeks in a row with no alternative for kids' movies. I mean, if they could just, get the old cartoons and show them on Saturdays for kids, that would be awesome. There's just not enough stuff for the little ones to do in town that they would enjoy doing. And I know, and when I was a little kid, I grew up in Springfield, Mass, and we had the Bing. The Bing was an old school theater, and on Saturday and Sunday, you knew you were going to see Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Bugs Bunny, anything they could come up with at that point in time. And
I agree, and I just want to ask, this clearly will have much more discussion, and it needs public discussion. So I want to ask one more time to Charlie. He mentioned a page, I think, on Facebook, or if there's a newsletter or something. So is there information where folks could follow along in the lively discussion moving forward? Charlie, if you could just state that one more time.
Yes, I think the appropriate place would be the Friends of the Bellows Falls Opera House Facebook page, which Josh moderates.
Okay.
And we also will be doing regular Zoom meetings, and we'll be announcing them on all the Bellows Falls pages. But yes, we want to have these dialogues.
Okay. So the Zoom links information will be in there as well.
Yes.
And if someone doesn't have Facebook, Charlie, is there a perhaps we could put it on the Opera House or the town website of upcoming Zoom meetings?
If the town wants to do that, I have no authority to do that.
It's important. It's important to the folks who have ties, who live here, to follow along with this process.
I cannot agree more. And Charlie, you have full access to the town's municipal website. It's going to be an excellent vehicle for you to get the word out to the greatest number of people.
Great.
Great. Mr. Chairman, I really like the idea there. That kind of brings back memories there that Rena had mentioned. And I think, Charlie, that's important. It'd be kind of like a nostalgic, the cartoons and type of things on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings or whatever. It gets a lot of young people who aren't having too much to do. Like the young kids, very young kids would enjoy that, as well as some adults.
I agree, and I just feel that the discussion could be endless on this topic, and
Sure.
and it's exciting. And we've covered a lot of ground here tonight, and I think at this time we're going to move on. And I'd like to thank everyone once again for all their work. Okay? Unless there was anyone else. Thank you, everyone. We now, thank you, Charlie. And we need to move on now to item number 7, Development Office. We have Mr. Gary Fox.
What about 6?
Oh, sorry, I already checked that out. Sorry. Item number 6.
I think I kind of brought everybody up to speed. We've had a couple incidents recently for the last few weeks with personnel that have consumed much of my time. I pleaded with the board to please address the HR position so that I can get back to finances. But as soon as I'm really close. I was, and I am really close. There's still, the year to date are nothing out of the ordinary, and last year I plan for them to come in right where I had predicted. So those will be sent along as soon as I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Gaetano.
Yes, ma'am.
Just I don't know if you have a chance, Shannon, but how did our taxes come in August? Are people having difficulty in paying taxes?
People are not having difficulty, and those that would have set up plans. So we're extremely pleased. We are being cautious, though, that the next round of taxes may, so that's my prediction, but we haven't seen any hit as of yet.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're still planning on seeing that, to be honest.
I would suspect the next round, yes.
Right.
No, go ahead.
Now we'll do item number 7, Development Office, Gary Fox.
Yeah, hi. So the agenda for tonight is a number of grants, and we're moving into an area where the funding from starting at the federal and that flowing through the state, where there is a lot of unusual funding not normally available to organizations and municipalities. So a little out of the ordinary, there's a number of grants that are on here in a list. The first two, Vermont Community Development Program, require the heaviest amount of due diligence from the town. And those are block grant funds that need the select board to issue a public notice about the grant and the number of dollars, and then hold a public hearing on the grant, and then can have the grant application go in 5 days later. So those are the first two. And the Community Development Block Grants Community Service implementation on behalf of BIFTA is to purchase equipment for Light Up Bellows Falls. And I think Betsy Thurston might be online. She's the new executive director for the Bellows Falls Downtown Development Alliance. Is Susan hosting the online?
So this is, so you see everybody there.
Okay. So I guess Betsy, if you're there and can unmute yourself and want to speak to the Light Up Bellows Falls program campaign. Okay, so so I don't see her there. So I'll just say every year BIFTA holds a shop local program, as folks here know, and there's around $350,000 in sales for folks that have their cards stamped at our local retails. And for a lot of our downtown merchants, 80% of their business is through the holiday season. That's annual sales. And with the limits of 10 people at a time in a store. Some of them during the, between Thanksgiving and Christmas will have 50 people at a time, 60 people. So what Light Up Bellows Falls is provides accommodations for families, shoppers, visitors to be engaged in the downtown outside while waiting their turns to go into the stores. So there's a 20-foot by 40-foot tent that would go in the parking spaces next to the Wyndham Hotel. There's propane heaters to keep them warmed up. There would be displays outside. There would be activities, things like Bellows Falls themed, but holiday themed. So it might be a tent that has some Grinch story activities, but and maybe Hetty Green is the Grinch. And so people can get a Bellows Falls flavor, but partake in some holiday cheer and be engaged while they're waiting their turn to go inside a store. So, so that they're calling it Light Up BF. It also includes replacing some of the decorations that are decades old that no longer work, some of the snowflakes that go on trees, some new items. And so this is a team, the Bellows Falls Downtown Development Alliance. They have committees, design committee that works on lighting. So Michael Bruno, some of the canals in Wyndham Antiques has folks that have done a lot of research and design on the lighting. Canal Street Gallery, research and decorating Canal Street. And so this grant would provide the funds with no match requirement to purchase everything needed for the Light Up Bellows Falls campaign and really save our downtown merchants that could be going out of business during the holiday period. And for that grant, we do need a motion from the select board to issue a public notice for a public hearing on September 19th at 2 p.m. for a $25,000.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the discussion, and that'd be the reference to 2020 VCDP implementation grant. Okay, I'll make the motion to authorize a public notice of intent to apply for the 2020 VCDP implementation grant for CDBG CV Public Facility and Service Program funds for subsequent subrecipient BIFTA corresponding public hearing. On behalf of the town, some equipment.
I'm sorry, no, that's good for that one, Stefan, thank you.
All right.
Here, second. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Authorize public notice of intent to apply for 2020 VCDP implementation grant. Discussion?
Yeah, just a question. Gary, are you applying for two $25,000 grants for the
Yes,
subrecipient? I get part of the second one, but my question, I guess maybe you should wait until you get to that one. I got some question of what kind of equipment you're looking at Waypoint, but that comes up with the next item.
Sure.
Good question, Peter. One of my questions, Mr. Chairman, is there matching funds required from the town of Rockingham for any of them?
There is no match required for the public service grants.
There is none,
So
okay.
this first one, you don't have any further questions? Susan, any questions?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. 2020 VCDP implementation grant, $25,000. All those in favor would signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. And then the next one,
The second one is for equipment and engineering on town buildings. So it looks at things like the air exchange in the Opera House, what we need to do for that. Looks at similar thing for the Waypoint, any accommodations that we can make for that. Let's see, equipment for outdoors. There's banners, holiday lighting, let's see, a tent similar to the one outside at the, outside of the Hotel Wyndham. And, yeah, I guess that's really the basic nut. And there is no match required. It's the same situation where we need to issue a notice this Friday for a public hearing on September 19th.
Next,
Yeah.
when? You
So-
said this Friday.
Yeah, so the public notice, the rules for the block grants.
Yep.
15
So you want another
days.
motion?
Say that again?
You need another motion.
Yes.
See that one, Stefan?
Yep, I've got it authorized. I'll make the motion to authorize the public notice of intent to apply for the 2020 VCDP implementation grant for CDBG CV Public Facility and Service Program funds and corresponding public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Authorize a public notice of intent to apply for the 2020 VCDP implementation grant and corresponding public hearing. Any,
So the second part of that motion, in the cut and paste, that came up a little bit above. So right where Stefan left off.
Authorize.
Would be on behalf of the town, equipment at the Waypoint Center, some engineering, et cetera. If you could add on that piece above to the rest of the motion.
Okay, on behalf of the town, some equipment at the Waypoint Center and some engineering research and implementation to ensure safe levels of air exchange at Town Hall and Opera House, as well as at the Waypoint, 25,000.
so the amended motion is second.
So what's the equipment at the Waypoint, Gary? Can you give us a little detail on that? What are you looking for?
Will we get a second to his amendment? Second to his amendment? He amended the motion, it's been seconded. Your question?
I'll second that. We need a second.
I have a
You hear
question.
Peter's question, sir?
I did, yes, and so I'm looking that up. So on September 15th, you will see you'll see the full application, which will have all these details in it. The reason you're seeing it today is because the timing on these grants, they're very particular, very specific, and this meets the timing to submit on September 25th. And so you have an idea that it's coming up, but on September 15th, the full grant will be in front of you, everything that's in it, and there'll be a resolution for you to either accept or turn down to file the application for the grant. So this is kind of a pre-application look at it. But I can get that information for you right now if you like. Let's see.
That answers the question. At least we'll see something before we.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll see the full application, the budget, everything that's going to be purchased, the cost, where it's going to be purchased from, on September 15th.
Okay, so any other questions?
Yes. I want to make sure that it's clear. In applying for this, for example, the implementation grant and receiving those monies, I've heard a lot of talk about air systems recently in relation to schools. Would it bind or the town of Rockingham after your implementation grant for the, say, for example, the air system? The cost of that air system, would that have to be borne by the town, or would there be a grant for that?
So,
But what I'm saying is basically by accepting this, does it later bind us down the road because we accepted it to have to actually do the work, even if it's going to cost us $500,000 or $200,000?
no. And the situation here at Town Hall, we have the equipment, but it needs some engineering analysis. The software and computers that operate it are outdated, and it's not possible for even the company that made it or installers to access, analyze the settings for the CO sensors and the temperature settings and the differential settings on the air exchangers on top of the roof, which adjust how much fresh air comes in. They can't even do that to look at it. So they recommend it's
But the
hiring an engineer.
The answer to the question is no.
Yes.
Thank you. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. We have one more here.
No, so, so
like
just
we did.
following down through the next number of grants, none of the others require the same due diligence from the select board, but some of them do
Manager.
require
Third one.
you to support them. So first one, Buildings and General Services has a couple of grants. They're $25,000 each and they're one-to-one match. So either the Economic Development or the Recreational Facilities Grant could match the one for Town Hall and help with if we need to update any equipment on the roof, do any of that work. And if possible, we would like to apply for both of those. Those grant applications are due on September 15th. The funding opportunities right now, legislation is coming out quickly. The grants are offered. There's not enough lead time to really put things together, have them in front of you beforehand. We've been putting together like a grant per day. And then the grants that we were approved for from 6 months ago have closings that require a bunch of administrative work that have been taken a day at a time. And so at any rate, these buildings and general services need to be submitted September 15th before your meeting will be held that evening. So you'll be able to see those grants after the fact, but it would be great to have a motion authorizing applying for these grants and authorizing the the manager to execute any documents to apply for these grants.
Understood. Thank you.
So the next one is a FEMA assistance reimbursement expense, and that will be finished and going in. That's due by midnight tonight. It's close, and that's any expenses up through June 30th. And then we are registered for this disaster with FEMA, and so expenses after June 30th we can apply for later. But this would be those expenses, and then the state has a grant for reimbursement of COVID expenses, but in order to be eligible for it, all those expenses had to have been applied for through FEMA, which would cover 75% of them, and then this state grant will cover the other 25%. That state grant is due this Friday. The regional marketing grant came out. It was going back and forth between the legislature, the downtown groups, and so that was recently released and had a deadline of yesterday. So we did submit one to promote that Light Up Bellows Falls program and to promote our restaurants with the outdoor seating in downtown Bellows Falls. The Northern Border Regional Commission Forest Economy Partnership was due on last Friday, and that is a joint, and this one is a letter of intent. It's not a grant application. If they accept the letter of intent, then it would come before you and the Walpole Select Board. So this would be a joint grant from Rockingham and Walpole, and would cover about a $500,000 match on the 2023 Vilas Bridge expenses. With New Hampshire DOT has the other half of it programmed, but this half is not funded. So this grant would cover that half and get that process moving. And then there's some funds in it to help with the trails, connectivity over the Vilas Bridge, and to help with the New Hampshire Rail Trail and some of our trails, starting at the Bellows Falls Historical Society and connecting with the Saxons River Valley Trail. And that one, if we're accepted, the grant would be due on October 30th. And so you will see presentations on the full grant plus from the trails groups, as well as the regional planning commissions on the DOT piece. Let's see, there was another one in here. Oh, so, and the Everybody Eats program is one that came out through SEVCA, and we did engage in that, the Rockingham Help and Helpers through the Chester Food Hub, and that provides $10 per meal to any local restaurant that will produce them. And let's see, we've done that for about 2 weeks now, providing around 100 meals a week, and have been working on expanding to more restaurants and food producers, and are funded starting in September for 500 meals per week. And we're nailing down that restaurant. That grant goes through December 15th, I believe, December 15th or December 30th for the meals.
And anybody's eligible for those, right? Through the
Any,
CARES?
any food producer that files a rooms and meals tax. So these meals will not get rooms and meals tax, but by filing rooms and meals tax, it shows the state that you are a restaurant business. You're not just stuffing, saying, I'm a restaurant, I want to produce, give you 100 meals, give me $1,000. So so that's the eligibility threshold, is the rooms and meals tax.
But what I'm going to is that, because I read about some of this in Brattleboro, and I talked to a legislator the other day, that's anybody in this community or anybody anywhere could come in and enjoy a meal, right?
Yes, yes. So you're talking about eaters, not producers. Yes.
Okay.
So anyone who says that all they need to do is answer the question, has it been harder for them to procure food since COVID? And regardless of the answer, no one will be turned down. The intent is anyone who wants a meal should be able to get it through this program. The assumption that anyone could at times use help with producing meals, it's tougher to shop.
Right.
A lot of unemployment, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people in our community are aware of it, that they have
Yes.
this
Yeah. So if
available
you go to
them.
the library website,
Yep.
Rockingham Free Public Library, there's a survey there where you can sign up, and that gets your eligibility. It gets the meals in the production line. And the other good thing about this is that it's required that at least 10% of the ingredients are from local farms and producers.
Right.
So it's a triple win for eaters, the restaurants, and our local farms and producers.
Okay.
And the last one is an Economic Development Authority wastewater grant through HUD. And that grant is direct federal application. And because we're part of a SEDS district and we have a SEDS, we're eligible to apply. Our wastewater plant is in an opportunity zone, so that gives it some added competitiveness. Folks there are looking for a sludge dryer. That's an expensive piece of equipment, but would save about $80,000 a year. These grants don't have an endpoint. By submitting this in the SEDS coming up this January, it becomes eligible for this Economic Development Authority. And these grants do not have an endpoint right now. They're a minimum $100,000, maximum $30 million, and I think the machine is in the $500,000 range. So that's everything that's in queue that comes under that broad categorization of authorize the application or intent to apply for grant funds described above, and authorize the interim municipal manager as designee to file or execute required documents for such applications.
So you need a motion to
Yes.
authorize the manager or his designee.
Yes, please. Yes.
That was a lot of work, Gary, and thank you, is all I can say. That was great.
Yeah. All right, I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Authorize the application or intent to apply for grants described above, and authorize the interim municipal manager or his designee to file or execute required documents for such applications.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions?
And the other ones that you added on here that we don't have information on, the meals and the sludge dryer and stuff, is there any matching funds required for that?
No.
Okay.
Susan, anything? Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Gary. Not working.
Yes. All those in favor would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks again.
So I would just like to report on some good news for Rockingham. We did just hear on last Wednesday and closed on Friday for a USDA housing preservation grant for $50,000. a community facilities $8,000 grant through BDCC for a feasibility study for the site design and facility design for a tenant at the Robertson, to build a facility at the Robertson paper site.
How much?
And $8,000, yeah. And what was the other one? Oh, yes, and we're closing on Wednesday on the outdoor recreation grant for brochures, marketing for trails, and pump track construction that you folks authorized in the winter. So 3 pieces of good news there.
All right.
Thanks for
Super.
your time.
Nice
Yeah,
to have
thanks a
good
lot.
news.
Next item on the agenda, item 8, Recycle Center. Chuck, who's going first?
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Rob Wheeler, Josh Kemp from Sewer Department. Before they speak, please note that the hours that they have contributed have towards recycle have been billed to recycle. So that offsets the cost at the Sewer Department. Right now, Josh is serving as the interim before we finalize a permanent recycle coordinator manager. And Rob Wheeler is donating his time and experience to help out Josh in that regard. So I thank both of you. And again, just another public service announcement. Those hours spent by 2 sewer department operators are being directly billed to Recycle Center. We have been hearing of a number of things that the Recycle Center needs, things that need to be updated, code violations, etc. This I really see as an opportunity for the board to ask questions, to receive answers. I would like also recognize Sean McGinnis, who handles a lot of the fire code. Sean's keeping his eyes closed. He's dreaming of being somewhere else right now. But between myself, Sean, Rob, and Josh, I think we can have any questions answered. Josh, would you like to just give us a broad overview of what you've taken over and what you've done to date?
Let me, hold on, we need a mic, I can hand you one, or there's an extra.
I can speak louder, I have no problem with
They
that.
can't hear you.
Oh, they can't hear me at all.
There's one next to Ben.
Okay.
Turn it on.
Make sure the little red, there you go, thank you.
I got asked a couple weeks ago, go down there and take a look at the site, see if I was interested in helping out doing it. Keep it small and simple. I said yes, I temporarily will take over and clean it up. As of right now, I've spent numerous hours just cleaning the site. Got inside the building, had questions on what I saw, asked Sean McGinnis what he thought, and he said that it'd be good to have an inspector look at it. Gonna have an inspector look at it on the 3rd, 12:30. I'll be down there with an inspector, and then we're gonna go from there. Have purchased some few items, small items to go inside temporarily for basics that we needed, gloves, small stuff. So right now we're just cleaning up and then going from there. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask, because there should be plenty.
I don't have any questions right now. I'd like to hear if there's any more discussion.
We don't have any plans in place in terms of hiring somebody permanent. I think that might be something that the permanent manager considers. I appreciate Josh's focus on public service, or customer service, let's say, and making sure that we're a kinder, gentler group of folks. Also addressing some of the code issues. Most recently, we're going to see some additional expenses. We did not plan for these expenses, but for instance, the scale, Peter and I tried to make it work this Saturday. It did not work. There's calibration issues. We have an expense unbudgeted, $2,000 that we're going to have to fit in somewhere, but that's not a discretionary thing. We have to have that scale operating. So I think we're all going to be in agreement that certain things that need to be invested in the center, these aren't items that we can just push down the road.
The scale actually, we got the computer system up, but it's not communicating with the scale.
And there's reasons. There's reasons for that.
Pardon?
I talked to them today.
Oh, you did get Fairbanks, yeah.
Yep.
That's a simple fix, I think, on their part. I mean, I don't know how expensive it is.
Unfortunately, it's not a simple fix. They told me last week last week when I was there, that it was going to have to be completely replaced because it was so antiquated.
I knew that was coming.
So it's there. It happened on Saturday, unfortunately, and they do not have replacement parts for it. So I did my part and called them.
It's good to know. That's
Yeah.
not what I heard. That's
No,
all.
I called them yesterday and told them I need to get a quote for you guys tonight, and I did that. Chuck has it, and we're going forward with it tomorrow, making it happen.
Good, we need it.
We may be using the last 9-pin point printer in the state of Vermont. I didn't think those existed. It kind of it makes me want to find my old Atari 2600, but yes, it was in need of upgrading.
Well, can you get that to run the heating system in the town hall?
Quick, I tell you, you want to see that, you hit that button.
Windows XP.
That sucker just, I'm surprised it prints that quick.
So is it, so you said they didn't have the parts, but now that they've diagnosed the problem, they do have them?
They
'Cause
don't
it's-
have parts. We're doing a complete upgrade.
Okay.
Computers.
But
the
they have
computer-
that.
I talked to them today on the phone. They said they would have it all on site. I said, we have to run tomorrow. If you would be there early in the morning, it'd be great.
Oh,
They
really?
said, we will make you first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock, we'll be there.
Awesome.
Okay, what kind of dollar amounts are we looking at?
2,000.
Yeah.
It'd be it's going to be $2,092.45, I believe.
Okay.
So right now we have Donnie eyeballing. If you've seen Don's eyeballs, that's what we call Plan B. And so getting that scale up and running, I think is going to be important.
Essential there.
He does pretty good, but there's, the other day, Saturday, when I was there, a load came in of pressure treated, soaked with water, so you know how much that weighs, so the both of us trying to get our heads together and figure out a number. The guy had no problem paying whatever, we could have thrown $200 at him, he would have paid it. He said, I haven't got any place to take it, so we had him, but we were gentle.
One quick, simple thing, I heard about dumpster location was an issue. I moved them, I put them there personally because of drive-offs. And we had another one this weekend, we're trying to identify who it is. And that's the reason why the dumpsters are there, and it's been working good. It is looking just at times in the back, but right now, that's my decision.
And do you have plans for your now abundance of additional space on the left-hand side there?
Still working on that, getting the trees removed. Looked at having tree service in Westminster, look at them, have them taken down. Other two highway guys possibly, once we get things looked at the other buildings, see if it's antiquated.
No, where the roll-offs used to be.
Yes. I don't have a spot for anything for that right now, just because it's out of sight, out of mind in the back.
Has the topic of having the traffic pull in to the left and getting off of Route 5 and filing into lines
That has come up, yes.
and going that way?
I've
And
been
if you
hesitant to do it.
Swap the two compactors. I think I've had discussion with somebody so that someone pulls in, they say, I just have 3 bags of rubbish. Then they get in this line and go right by everyone waiting to get rid of their recycling. In today's environment of 1 car at a time, that's the first place they pull in, so it's backing everybody up.
Yes.
Well, Saturday, what we did is we did do that. We had, Terry was out there, who runs the electronics.
Okay.
And I were both out there. Those pictures right there are from 12:15 to 1:05 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the lineups out on Route 5 and inside.
Yep.
They were people that came in and said, I only got a bag of rubbish. So we directed them to go down past the scale, past the line. As Katana just said, with the COVID thing, you only got one person. A thing that would help the most would be a separate dumpster or something for the cardboard.
Yes.
If we could put that over on the side where Katana just mentioned, that big space.
Mm-hmm. I believe
that would relieve a lot of the backup, because you get a guy in there that's got a wagon or a load of, we had pickup trucks come in with right up to the top with cardboard, and it takes a guy half an hour to unload it, and then you got to run the compactor to get it crush it. So if we could get that cardboard out of there, and I think if a call to Alva, who has the contract for that, and tell them, give us the damn dumpster, you get the cardboard, it's in the contract, he gets the cardboard, so he shouldn't argue about charging us for a dumpster, and he'd have clean cardboard over there.
Yes, but would he charge us for picking up and dropping
No,
off?
that's the deal you make with them. Just call them up and say, look, if we wanted to give you clean cardboard with no pizza boxes. You'd have to make a sign that says no pizza boxes. Because the other day I pulled one out that had half a pizza still in it.
But clean cardboard is cardboard that's not soaked in the rain when it rains or snows or something else.
Yeah, but even if it was that, I mean,
We
I
have,
know.
we have clean cardboard.
I have a question for you then.
Yep.
Who are we gonna be able to get to watch and maintain that? Because that is on the blind side of that whole
Yeah,
facility where
but
no
I
one
think
watches.
If you got it close enough to the shed, instead of putting it way out on the back towards the brush,
Okay,
I think the guys that run the car, if you got two guys on that garbage compactor, you can cover this, and it's a good idea to move those dumpsters that we will, people would just drive in, like Catano said, on the left and start chucking stuff in there.
Mhm.
And we're catching those.
We've actually gone down from 10 or 12 a weekend to 1 or 2.
Saturday, we had 2, but we caught them before they got out.
Yeah, and we had one that got a U-Haul. One went out with a U-Haul full of stuff and dumped, and Donnie actually took it upon himself to go to U-Haul and track the number down on that U-Haul. So
Donnie's
congrats to
pretty
him. I do want to say that, things have been said that, he is getting older and stuff, but I do want to say that he did diligence on his own time and went and did that, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we also, a couple of weeks ago, we had a $600 drive-off off the scale.
Yes.
Which we recouped.
Mm-hmm.
We caught the guy, we had the phone numbers for both parties involved, and what ended up being was, the guy that lent the guy the equipment to haul the stuff in there wanted him to take it to Springfield,
Mm-hmm.
but the guy didn't have an access permit to Springfield, so he brought it here, and then they fight and sued, I'm not paying for it, you're paying for it.
So,
But
so right now,
we did get it.
seems a lot of progress has been made.
I have pictures that I've taken from my
in
own
it.
progress.
I see it. I'd just like to commend that work, and then, we could have a discussion about what we'd like to do in the future for an hour or two, the four of us but I don't think it's appropriate right now. But what about staffing right now down there? How do you feel where we at? Does he have enough employees and volunteers to
So we-
function? And then lastly, there's no conflict from the village because of reducing their budget by taking their employee? It's correct,
Yeah,
I don't,
we're not reducing the budget, just the
village.
hours that they expend towards recycle are dedicated to recycle. So that's just an internal accounting practice.
It's outside.
not during his time at wastewater.
Well, he's still working his 40-plus
I
hours at
was,
wastewater.
if they were listening and everything's okay with the village.
You never know.
Well, not
right.
I will.
Okay.
I will
But-
say this: I make phone calls on my wastewater
Sure.
shift. I do bill it to town of Rockingham Recycling. However, I have done most of my time, 90% of it, after hours, from 2:30 to midnight, or
Well, I think you should be compensated. I'm not
I ha-
questioning
I have been.
what you're
that's been
doing.
taken care of on our end.
I'm not questioning what you're doing. I was making sure that the village was on board and aware, and that we're moving more in this different divisions working together.
Yeah, and this is short term
Concept.
until we get something
Short term.
finalized. In terms of staffing, we're always looking for volunteers, additional people to work. Highway has always historically been there to back up
Yeah.
operations. We also saw it with at the beginning of the pandemic when some people weren't able to work, and so Highway was able to support them. We will have Highway folks on shift from time to time to be able to make sure we can enjoy that coverage. I would put the word out to everyone. I think, Peter, you're going to agree too. Any volunteers, I think, are going to be welcomed going
I was
forward.
just going to make a comment. It wouldn't probably hurt to put some sort of a message in the Westminster Gazette that everybody gets, and just say that we're looking for volunteers to work down. We've had some people say they would volunteer, but I don't think anybody's really walked up to them and asked them, I mean, I myself hooked Becky Gagnon into working there. She was running the scale for one Saturday while we were busy. And she's willing to come down there and help out. So we got one, but that's,
Thank
But
you.
it wouldn't hurt to have a couple extra bodies there, especially like Saturday, Frank from Saxon River had to leave, he had an appointment, and Eric had to leave for a while, he had an eye appointment. So we may do, because say with the scale being not working,
We have coverage, but the bench is light. And what I'm saying is that we need a greater sense of backup if somebody's not feeling well and so forth.
yeah, I just want to get busy if the more eyes you got on stuff, the less chance people are going to, get away with stuff. So,
You want me to keep these pictures?
you can keep.
Because I have a bunch of pictures.
Ben took some, but I just took those, and some woman says to me, "You got the ones out in the road?" I said, "I am way ahead of you." So,
Go ahead.
He needs a microphone.
Oh.
Anyone on the board, anything else for right now?
My turn?
Yes, sir.
I was just going to mention that seeing you working on improvements down there and cleaning it up and moving forward with it, I would recommend that you contact the director at the Windham County Solid Waste District in Brattleboro, if you haven't already done so,
No, I have not.
and have him come up and actually walk through that facility with you, not as like an inspector for violations, but just as a general, look and see, give you some input. He's been doing it for years. And I'm sure he could give you as well as the town some good advice on different ideas, things to do, what not to do.
we belong to Wyndham.
Right.
So, that guy's been down to talk to me because he's looking for a representative to the district, because Gary was the district rep.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about until October, that's the next meeting, but we need to be thinking about somebody to take that.
Absolutely.
And he's in usually either Wednesday and Saturday, so very simple matter to catch him.
Right.
Yeah.
I can have him look for you when he's down there, because if I'm not there, then, because he caught me one day.
Yeah, either one is fine. Whatever gets
Do
the best
both.
job done.
I'd do both.
Yeah, I can do both.
I'll tell you more about
I'm
it.
not gonna tell you I know anything about that facility. I'm
Right.
just trying to make
Well,
it-
here's just another person that could come in and
Sure.
Yep.
just
All I'm
give
trying
you
to
a
make it
once
do is run
over.
smoothly until we find somebody.
Yep.
And thanks for Rob helping me out, doing some of it with me, but.
That it? Anything else? No. Okay. Anything else for now on recycling center? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the violations. I think Shannon said she had a bunch of pictures.
Yes, I have them.
Two questions.
Go ahead.
Is anybody that did the inspections qualified or certified to do those?
Person that is actually coming on the 3rd is from VLCT, Jim Carrion.
I
And
heard that.
he will do a full inspection on it, due to the concerns and what was going on down there. Not what was going on, but the way it came about. And he is gonna be able to give us all the information. So,
Okay.
what we suspect, what we saw, is gonna be verified then.
Okay, so the violations that actually have been mentioned to the board in the emails from Chuck are just your perceptions, correct? They're not legal violations. If you're not certified, you can't really.
No, I guess if that's the way that's where you wanna look at it, that's fine.
No,
Yeah.
I agree there's stuff, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But also, anybody that does an inspection needs to have an agreement between the state and town unless they're certified to do the inspection.
I completely understand.
But Rockingham is not listed that we have that agreement, so they can't really. I understand that, I get it. I was told that by Wade. Wade told me last Saturday, so I knew that was coming.
And I know I'm not certified, but I've been here 13 years and done all the inspections with Jim Carrion at our wastewater facility and stuff that's to be expected, how things are supposed to be hung up, seeing as how we have certain areas that are very unsafe, such as our tanks, and you can fall into, things that have to be chained off, things have to be lit 24/7, 365, exit signs, stuff that just isn't there. That's
Yeah.
just the basic stuff. I'm not even saying some of the faculty not wearing safety shoes on site when they're working around cars and automatic stuff. No lockout, tagout kits for the compactors when they're not in operation. I can get in them any day of the week, no questions asked, without even a key. I almost threw the keys out the other day cleaning, not knowing what they went to. It's just no key box, nothing labeled. I'm not trying to throw things out there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help as fast as I can for the next person to be handed down something better than what I was handed.
I'm just gonna say that one thing, it's not a one rule covers everybody. I mean, that building down there doesn't have anything compared to what other places have. I will say one thing, best improvement I saw was that damn porta potty down there. That
And why?
indoor, the
and
porta potty.
Can I ask you why that would be?
Why? Because
Yes.
that indoor outhouse is a piece of work. You've seen it, so.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
that's sort
it
of
isn't bad for stand-up, but sit
That's the
down's
sort of
another
violation
story.
I'm talking about. There's no running water.
Well, that's a violation no matter what facility. It's a public facility.
It
You-
may be a
that-
public
that's-
facility, but public doesn't use it.
Public go in that building.
Yeah.
It's
They
a
go in
public
that
building.
building, but they don't use
It's a
it.
public building.
That is a
So
public
anyways,
building because there's.
it's an
And,
absolutely,
you know, and actually, if you, Saturday, I was the only one to use that porta potty. Everybody else is still used to going in the building. They don't use it.
It should be.
Ridiculous.
All right.
I know, but it should be locked and shut. I'm not certified, but that's common sense.
so the
stuff.
guy's coming?
He's coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry, Thursday
I
the
did
3rd.
get some information from Gary. All the electrical stuff has been certified by the safety fire station. That
And that's
was done
okay.
as of
I
when-
even had Sean McGinnis walk through it with me, and he had questions.
They did find one violation at the garbage dumpster because there was, on the conduit connection, there was no cover. I don't know whether that was intentional. They had to come back and do some work.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the guy got there, and I don't know. They did put a cover on it, so as far as
No,
I know.
those are just.
But the same thing.
Okay, listen.
I apologize.
We can't just have a discussion between the two of us about recycling.
But I want to address it all for you.
We
You're all aware
we
of
hear
it.
you loud and clear. I appreciate everything that's taken place in addressing the concerns and the hazards and moving forward and the time you're spending doing it. And,
I want to thank you for your time, taking the time down there to visit. I knew you did that.
Yep.
And hopefully we can move forward and work together on this.
absolutely. Anything else, Chuck, Stefan?
No, we're good, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time,
Thank
guys.
you too. Thank everyone that goes down there and helps out.
You guys all set with me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for getting it
Thank you.
cleaned up.
Yes,
No
yes.
problem.
Who is that?
It's Deborah Rice. If you have a moment for public comment
We do, yep.
on the recycling. I appreciate all of the changes that have been happening swiftly and smartly and cleaning things up. I am concerned, however, besides the physical changes, what's happening to the accounting standards, updating and safeguarding the public money. That's another issue, that area that we have not discussed. Changes to how monies are collected there.
I don't have the answer to that right now, Deb, but I guarantee it's on the list of things that need to change.
It's being reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's being reviewed and discussed and,
Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's being reviewed, says Shannon. Deb? She's muted again, but I think,
Oh, okay, thank you.
we're-
I wanted to make sure that it's still on the list. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a new, our Zoom screen changed, so I couldn't see if you had your hand up. I don't know if anyone else has any questions on recycling. If not, we're prepared to move on to item number 9, fire training agreement. Thank you very much, you guys. We have some information here. Does anyone want to? Yes, sir, you have your mic all queued up.
All right, this is something I've introduced, it's just a concept at this point, similar to what we have.
Can't hear him, sorry. Hi, Tom.
Can you hear me?
You can't hear Chuck?
Yeah.
Try again. Check, check, check. Take a new mic. Testing.
Can you hear me now?
Susan, you hear him now?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, yep.
So this is a concept I'd like to have some feedback. This is the first time it's been discussed in a public venue. The photo here on the website, this was a fire that happened recently. And to me, it illustrates something that happens every day. And for most of us, because I'm a lay person, I came from the outside not understanding what the fire departments were all about. But you see how a spirit of cooperation takes over when any emergency takes place in our community. And I've been asking questions from time to time, again, as an outsider. Some of these questions I even get chastised for because I just don't know any better. But I've often asked, how come if we work together when it matters most, that we don't train together? I have really enjoyed some of the training that I've been invited to. I find that even when they put an air pack and a uniform on me, it pushes me to the edge of my endurance. And each time I learn something new. Dealing with these 3 fire departments, I'm also aware that they all bring their own personalities, their own skill sets. And so this concept, if you will, is this notion of we all have a common purpose, common goal. We all have strengths and weaknesses. Each department could host a training for the other 2 departments, and we could just institutionalize a greater level of cooperation amongst the 3 individual fire departments. This is not a notion of trying to dissolve those 3 independent fire departments. This agreement, I wasn't even sure if we could do something like this, and the municipal attorney had to walk me through it because each department is structured differently. From the select board's point of view, is this something of any interest to you? Because a lot more work has to be done. I even intimated in the memo that this agreement has to now be presented, if it's of interest to you all conceptually, to each department individually. In the case of the Bells Falls, that's the trustees. So that's a whole other set of meetings that we would have to do. But the carrot to all this is if you all use town resources, town funding, to support your fire department, would you be willing, at least right now in concept, to train together? To have 3 trainings per year hosted by the individual department, and that's just something we begin to start. There's only advantages. I'm not aware of disadvantages. Maybe I'll hear tonight those disadvantages. But this is something I feel is important, and during my tenure as manager, I wanted to raise it.
So are you asking us as select board, or you
Feedback on this idea.
You want to hear from the fire department? I think it happens currently, and I think more of it happening is absolutely a good idea. That's how I feel. I've worked with, been a member of 2 of the departments, and we go to Rockingham often on their calls, and they come here. So I think you get to know them, but more of that, I'm in favor of any training. So you know me. Yes, sir.
I have a minor problem with number 3. Kind of heavy-handed to say that they don't want to play ball, we're going to cut off their funding. Does that include the fire equipment purchase policy where it's a confliction?
The intention there is the funds that you would receive every year. We're not talking about, I get your point, so that a piece of equipment is absolutely critical. You cannot put that on the discussion table. That's
I just brought it up because it
so we would have to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because that would imperil any kind of mission capacity, and that's a non-starter.
I'm just asking them, to clarify this whole thing.
So
I think the whole thing is a good idea to be. I don't know how the.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 of the 3 departments' fire chiefs are present tonight. I think we should ask them how they feel about it before we feel the need to discuss how we feel. Well, I've already said how I feel.
I did email Art, made him aware of the meeting tonight, and this subject was on here.
So we have Chief McGinnis here tonight.
So,
he was going to share his thoughts.
I think that it should actually go before the three chiefs first. And we should discuss this before we move forward with this agreement at all.
Has it been discussed with the three chiefs at all?
Kevin and I have talked about it very briefly, but that's all.
Do you get a response from Saxons River when you inquire about the discussion?
I haven't really spent a lot of time reaching out to Art.
I think a lot of this is the first night that probably the majority of these chiefs have probably heard about it.
The only
Majority of them?
Yeah.
There's two of them here tonight.
Oh,
That's the majority.
yeah, well, that's the majority, but Kevin.
They've heard
when
about it
did you hear
before
about
tonight.
The only one the
Okay.
only comment I got from Art Smith was his concern on item 3. But
Well, I mean,
I didn't tell him what was on the meeting tonight. He could come on Zoom or attend in person. So
there's a lot more to address than that one
yeah,
concern.
He's aware of it. So
But he's-
I don't know where he wants to go with it. You know.
Certainly can't train enough for a job that could kill you.
That's right.
But I agree with Sean. I think it's let the chiefs get together and then come back.
We have a pattern of presenting ideas to this board because you are the first
Right.
to
No, I
be
understand.
discussed. So
I
if you
appreciate
think in concept this is the way to go, then the management staff will take it to the next step. And then we'll have to represent a document that reflects their collective input.
Right. I look at it as if we're talking about them, we include them as a courtesy and.
That's right.
Do you have any input, comment you'd like to make on this proposal tonight? All right, step on up.
I don't believe either myself or Chief McGinnis has an issue with training together. We even have one scheduled next week at the meeting house. I do agree with Peter that kind of that funding thing is kind of like blackmail. Blackmail you into training together. I think that is extremely heavy-handed. Sean and I have talked several times about training between the departments. We've done it in the past.
You just said that you have one next Wednesday.
That's correct. We're going to meet at the meeting house to discuss.
Prior
the
to this agreement, Rockingham and Bellows Falls will be training mutually next Wednesday at the Rockingham meeting house is what the chief just said. And okay, I kind of feel like it was just wanted to be presented, discussed, and I think we all agree that the three chiefs should discuss it, perhaps with the manager, or the three chiefs should discuss it and see how they feel. And then Ben has his hand up.
I agree the three chiefs should discuss it. And I don't know as if we necessarily need a memorandum of understanding right off. I think it could be tried first and see if we can just do it without all this.
Yeah, we have typically trained, I mean, you guys know, we probably don't do it enough.
No, but just a little push, and I
Yes,
think the three
yeah.
chiefs push, get together, and I think it would all work fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on, and I think it can only get better.
We will.
Question.
Yes.
No, I just don't know if having some type of agreement, multi-department agreement, opens up for funding for training, or funding for, that might be more accessible if you're approaching it as a three-department training program.
That has been discussed.
Yeah, that's a good question, because as you read in the top, they're all different organizations, and so that's a good question.
We have discussed it. We have had in the past, not so much with fire department, but the ability to get access to grants because we are a tri-town or a tri-department or other cooperative effort. I think the organic approach in terms of training, Ben, is something that does work. This would be taking it to another level where we attempt to host at each site, and just every year, 3, and that becomes a new expectation. I think that's something that's worth shooting for, because sometimes things get busy and priorities, they don't get picked up. So that's something I would like to take very seriously.
So didn't a round of grants just pass, and Bellows Falls filled out a lot, Rockingham filled out for hose, or if you guys could explain, and did Saxon's ever also participate in the grants?
We did apply for the Fire Edge grant for all 3 departments. Saxon River, we were unable to access their account. It's done by a SAM number, so Sue's question about is it a benefit to have all 3 departments work together? We actually did apply for a grant based on all 3 departments. It's called a, I can't remember the exact name of the grant, but you can apply based on helping out your community. So if Bellows Falls applied for the grant, then we can also attach Rockingham and Saxon's River on there, and it actually helps your chances of getting that grant. The fire grants are currently being dispersed now. I keep checking the site every day. I'm hoping for an email, but I haven't seen anything. There's only been about 8 in Vermont that have been handed out, so this round anyway. And I think that Chief has filled out some on his own through.
Yeah, we've applied for one through the USDA. I spoke to Gary this evening prior to the meeting. All the paperwork is in. The feds are looking at it, and he said it was a competitive grant. So we're hoping that comes through. I think that grant awards were delayed due to COVID, so we might not hear for another month or so.
Okay. Thank everyone. I think, at this point, we presented it, discussed it, and see if the 3 chiefs can get together and see where it
I
goes.
think because they work so closely already, that we will be ready at the next selectmen's meeting to have something back before this board. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Can I speak to this?
You sure can.
I got a whole list.
Have you?
Yeah, I do. So,
Obviously, we're all in favor of this training issue. First of all, this is nothing new. The idea of the 3 departments training together has been ongoing for years. We even did this same model a number of years ago, and like a lot of things, it went well for a while and then it petered out. Certainly, it's worthwhile bringing back up. My issue here is really the way this has gone about. It kind of has like Rockingham Recycle Center written all over it. No communication from the interim manager, very little.
With who?
With anybody in the fire service, specifically the chiefs. Obviously, that's who it should start with. So there's a total lack of communication. My other question is, who paid for the memorandum of understanding? Can anybody tell me that? I'm assuming there was a cost to that.
There's a cost to it. You showed it to me. You asked me about it.
So who paid for it?
The town of Rockingham paid for that.
And not the village.
Why are you asking a question when you know the answer? Just make the statement.
Well, not the village of Bellows Falls?
Why would the village of Bellows Falls pay for an agreement that the select board would enter with the 3 fire departments?
Right.
What's your point to that?
My point is, why when I asked you that question, I didn't get an answer previously?
I answered the question to you previously.
No, you didn't.
Well, it's a town-funded issue.
Exactly. That's my whole
And why
point.
would you expect input from, expense from the village? This is a select board meeting.
I wouldn't. That's why I'm trying to clarify, because originally it was said that it was a village cost.
Is your answer clear?
Yeah, I don't think it's accurate, but it's clear. So anyway, I also think that, to me, there's no need to have to spend money to talk about a memorandum of understanding for this, any of the fire departments to train together. I think it's something that could have easily been handled with much less. We shouldn't even be here talking about it.
Okay.
We don't need no memorandum of understanding. Another thing is discretionary spending. The interim manager has said twice, I know in the last month, that unnecessary spending was one of his priorities. Well, I find this hard to believe, that spending money on a memorandum of understanding that our fire departments could have done on their own very easily, with maybe just a little push from the right people, was necessary spending, especially with the way things are right now. To me, it's just a waste of the taxpayers' money. I mean, I'd even go to the extent thinking that actually the interim manager should pay for it, because I think it was an awful waste of money when he had no communication with anybody on this matter prior to now.
Because you got 3 minutes.
I do have a little more, yeah. You can stop me when my 3 minutes is up.
It's up.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think it's something that, my last thing was, when we get a new manager, it's something that could be put on their plate. But I don't even think it needs to go that far, because I think we're all capable of carrying this out without a memorandum of understanding, spending money on attorneys. It's ridiculous.
Well, how much did it cost?
But it wasn't being done. You said that yourself.
No, it slipped through the cracks years ago,
Yeah,
right?
Okay, so here's someone trying to get it done.
Yeah.
You don't agree with it?
I don't agree with spending money and going behind people's backs and not communicating it directly.
Well, going behind backs is your opinion.
Well, when he doesn't talk to the fire chiefs in the departments that it's directed towards, and the first knowledge they have of it is yesterday, then that is my opinion, and I think that's fact.
Okay.
Would you argue that? I mean,
But
it's
you also
clear.
just said it wasn't done and it could have been done, so he's trying to do it, but you don't like the way it was done.
Right, spending money and not communicating with those that are going to be part of it.
Understood.
Could have been a simple fix.
How much did it cost?
And as a leader, that's the way I would have handled it
Okay.
to begin
You're
with.
not a leader. You're,
Well, I think I am.
You're representative in a meeting at the select board, and your time is up.
That's fine. I said what I had to
That's it.
say.
Yes, sir.
Curious as to the cost.
I believe it was $600.
Yeah.
And I think it was PFFD. I think it came from the village, but I'm not, without looking at the.
I'm sorry, we can't hear that.
I said it was $600, and I think it was paid for by the village, but I'd have to double check that. Looking at the warrants, I thought it was under their.
It was billed to the village, that's error, and that will be fixed.
I don't know, Chuck. I'd have to look at the stuff. I thought I saw it there, but.
Well, it changed the whole topic of the discussion, and I hope that the chiefs get together on their own with a memorandum from the manager to discuss future trainings together. That's what this discussion was about. Anything else? I'll thank both of you guys for your hard work and dedication. Okay? Moving on to number 10, facilities manager position.
This is my second, and it will be my last attempt, so bear with me. We keep finding problems with our buildings. These problems are more expensive because we have delayed. I have attempted to enumerate the reasons, I think in good conscience. I'm not here to make a decision. I just want to make sure you know what is going on. If you have any questions, let me know. I tried to go line by line to point out some of the issues that we've faced. It's daunting, quite frankly, and I'm not sure. I have a background in facilities management, but that's not typically what you would see in a municipal manager. And I certainly know some of our department heads don't have backgrounds in facilities management. So I hope this pushes the dialogue forward, maybe leaves a few ideas in your head for the future budget. This is my final request.
So did everyone read this memo?
Yes. And I think, from in my opinion, we're in a situation, whether it be manager discretionary spending or COVID or trying to keep expenses low, that we ask people to do more with less. It's great that people volunteer, but it doesn't mean, in my opinion, every time that we have to pay them to do it. They're got to step up to the plate and take some pride in what you have. As far as the mice or whatever running around, my cat, Mr. Cringer, I'll nominate him to come in here if you'll feed him and provide a litter box for him, and he'll catch some mice for you. But no, what I'm saying is, we get a certain amount here, and I said this before too. We had a maintenance person. And I said it back then. What I'd rather see is, if you identify a plumbing problem, call a plumber, get it fixed. You have an electrical problem, get it fixed. You got a carpenter problem, get it fixed. We talked about some windows. I didn't see so much where at the time they got fixed. But I mean, rather than funding another position, which entails benefits and whatever else that goes along with that, if you have, it's just people in the building, all the buildings and all the properties, whether it's a building or land, it's got to be responsible enough to say, oh, by the way, I came in today, the fence has been clobbered. Can we put it on the list and have somebody get it fixed? I mean, I don't see we eliminated a position. I see no sense in putting another position in there.
So currently, the manager or one of the other people that work in this building should be up on the roof inspecting the roof?
No, I'm not saying that, but if we need to do something with the roof,
Well, how do you know unless you inspect it?
then make a phone call to a roofer and say, hey, what would it cost to have go up there and inspect the roof to see if there's anything that needs to be done?
And so Andy Howarth should be servicing and inspecting all his buildings. Under building maintenance, he should be aware of when the filters were changed or the rotting back wall, or
Yeah, pretty much I think you should, yeah.
you think he should
Yeah.
do that?
Same thing as, whether a homeowner at your house, you make sure if you clean the furnace once a year, you want to clean the drains.
A lot of people have property maintenance.
And a lot of people don't. I mean, I just can't see funding a position.
People with this amount of property typically have someone maintain the property. They don't take it upon
Well-
themselves when they're hired as a finance director or a fire chief or a highway superintendent to do inspections of their facilities, make sure the maintenance is scheduled.
Then we pay someone to come
Look
in
how
here
much
and
did
do overall inspect everything and give us a recommendation list. But to employ somebody to be here 365 days a year,
Okay.
I think is not a best use of our dollar.
Okay,
I think,
I completely disagree. It's
Okay,
absurd to
well,
not have a
you
maintenance.
can, but
I do. It's absurd to not have someone maintaining all our property dedicated to that position. Not just this building,
Yep.
like the last one.
Yep.
All of it. Yes, sir.
Well, I kind of have to agree with Stefan. A facilities manager person that's described here is probably going to be a person who goes around and inspects, and then what happens? He's going to call the guy to come and fix it anyway. So why are we adding another step in the process? We did have a person that was supposed to be doing maintenance on the buildings, and we got rid of him.
Because,
So
okay.
it boggles my mind that we get rid of people, and then we go and try and come in the back door with another person. My other comment is the third response here. You mentioned, Chuck, that you're worried about the hammer and the noise on the hammer. Why don't you move back to town hall? Your excuse was there's no foot traffic here, so what's the problem?
So right now I share my time between the concession stand and the firehouse. I did write this memo because I was put up on the lift to look down at a chimney and was told that had we done a simple thing 10 years ago, which was a block seal, instead of painting it, then we would actually still have this chimney today. And that's kind of heartbreaking to realize that we're having to undo a significant portion of this building when all it needed was a seal coat. And the chief at the time, it was not his fault. He is not a mason. he thought painting it would seal it. And it turns out painting is not only does it not seal it, but then it prevents us from sealing it in the future. So it was this really negative thing to see this happen, and it was so unnecessary, and it's so expensive to fix it after the fact. So yes, I still share equal time concession stand, greeting people. I like that visibility, and at the fire department.
So the follow-up question, where do we stand with the manager's office? We're in the process of hiring a new one. Where does that, is that empty or what?
It's ready to be filled.
I understand all thing in there is a table.
What does that have to do with the maintenance position?
I'm asking the following question, because he complains about the noise of the jackhammer.
He's not complaining about the noise.
Yes, he
Read
is.
the chimney.
Read it.
Read. I just read it, Peter.
He's
He states he's been
listening.
listening.
Noise on the hammer. Why is he working in the village fire department?
I know you
instead of
already.
the town hall?
You already said that. He's not complaining about it. He says he's listening to it and is stating the reasons why that he just re-explained right here.
Okay, you got a question in the back.
He's not complaining about it. You have anything? One minute.
Just real quick, we used to have someone from the highway department that partially did
Some of these repairs.
well, not necessarily the repairs, but coming down here and checking this building, because I don't expect someone that works here to check this building out, but I expect someone that works the head of the highway department to be in charge of those two buildings and schedule the furnace to be cleaned, stuff like that.
Pepper Anderson was a unicorn. He was one of the first people I called upon taking the position of the manager to see if he would be interested in returning. He was unique, and in fact, the position is modeled after his. He just brought an intellect and an understanding of what was needed when it was needed. He knew to put contractors on notice that wasting money was not going to be tolerated. He's that gentleman that I want in this position.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the previous maintenance position, but that was when we lost the heating system at the rec center under that maintenance, the last maintenance position who was here, who in my opinion never left this building. So I'm not looking for that caliber of person in someone to fill this position. If you get the right person in there to do the job that needs to be done, it would be a completely different story with what we see. That person spent just about their 40-hour week in this building to the tune where the public was complaining about it. So during his tenure, remember when we got the bill to replace the heating system at the rec center? Mm-hmm. And I said, why is it $7,600 for the heating system? It's new. And the answer was it never got serviced or looked at, and nobody knew why. So I think the caliber of the person in that position would make a huge difference. And I'll just check with Susan, and then I'll get to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly, we have a problem with maintenance. That's not a question at all. I think it's just a question of what person you put, what the role is of that person. I agree with Stefan. I don't think this is a 365-day job. And I don't think Pepper is, I mean, he was a unicorn. He's an individual. I mean, we're lost without him, really, in a lot of ways. But that he's not the only one. There are plenty of people in our community who have the ability to go into a building, see what needs to be done, follow a maintenance schedule, and maybe they're also the same person who in the wintertime is plowing the sidewalks. I think we have to look at this as a bigger position than someone who's just going around and inspecting and finding the things that we need to do. You can hire that as an outside service once a year, or once every 6 months, or whatever. I'm all for having someone in a maintenance position for our building, but I don't think this level of staff person is required. I think we really need to analyze what is we need to define for that. And I think it could go back to part highway, part maintenance, because the highway is always looking for the snow, the sidewalk plower or the shoveler.
I don't think you're gonna find someone of caliber to repoint, in my opinion, repointing the south side of the town hall that we were fixing to spend.
But he is not this position isn't described as that. It's described as somebody who's gonna contract out to the person who's gonna repoint.
No.
At least that's how I read it before.
Okay.
It's changed.
I would add that I'm not looking for someone to walk around identifying things. I think we have plenty of those people. I'm looking for someone who could in-house point this south side of the town hall. I forget if it was $15,000 or $30,000, $26,000 we were going to pay the mason to do that.
Did that ever happen?
It never happened, but we funded an incredible amount of money, which I questioned at the time. To me, you find the right caliber of person, you'll save yourself money with this position. I'm also not looking for someone to walk around and identify and.
Well, then the description has been changed since the last time I read it.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. You need somebody who has. I mean, ideally, they could probably keep someone who has the skills to do all of that busy all the time. I mean, we have jobs that did not get done because we lost the maintenance guy in May, who was scheduled to do things through the summer. Didn't get done.
They were on the list for a long time, so I'm not going to blame it on.
Not everything.
A lot of it.
The
Meeting house?
Not everything. Painting the meeting house, other things that were on the schedule, fixing the drains on the roof.
He was here every day, and they still were leaking when I went up there a few weeks ago, when we had the big leak.
Gone. He hasn't been here since May. I'm just saying that.
They've been leaking the whole time. It was on the list of things to fix.
Those leaks were there for at least 18 months.
We've known that they've been there. But I'm just saying that if it's a position where they're actually someone who's going to be doing the work, you have to figure out how many hours. Is it a full-time position? Is it a part-time position?
I'll take
Is
it.
it back to, sharing some work with highway? I don't know. I think we need to look more into that.
Okay, we have a question in the audience. Yep.
Mike's not on.
Is the public able to see this job description?
This is a concept. I don't want to get into because if it goes nowhere, this board can just tell me that, and it goes. Sure. This is tonight. Is it?
I understand. Okay,
yeah.
I understand. Well, I wanted to thank the manager for how he's made us much more financially responsible really, really quickly. And I want to thank Shannon again for keeping this budget in order and getting it under control. And I just want to say I'm a girl, right? But I'm a project manager of a building that my retirement is now in. Because these old buildings, especially in this town, have not been cared for, many of them. And looking around here, what I've learned in the last 3 years, I knew something about this, but now I know an awful lot more. Please don't be penny wise and pound foolish. This town needs this position filled. So I wish I could see the particulars, so I knew if we were talking about someone just to make repairs or someone to truly be a project manager that doesn't come in and, see something, fix it. Problems are there long before you see that they need to be fixed. And so this is someone who needs sort of the background in this, who's hiring out to contractors. There's no way one person could do all the work that needs to be done on these buildings. So I'm almost begging you as a newcomer to town, 3 years, who's invested a lot in your town, to please invest in your buildings. And this is a really small price to pay up front. I worry that some of this stuff can't be saved, quite honestly. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and of course Chuck and Shannon, they're paying attention. But in my opinion, I can't see, it's like paying for something twice. I can't see paying an individual and then paying someone to come in and repair that. And we're not gonna probably wouldn't find another individual like Pepper that would be able to be a master of all trades there. Or
Of course
most
you
trades.
could.
But I mean, if we identify a problem, if we have a budget set aside for maintenance and upkeep, I'd rather say, okay, if it's a problem with the door locks, get a locksmith in here or get somebody to take care of it and do that from the budget rather than paying someone to, paying twice. I just don't feel it's necessary.
Make a suggestion that if we're even remotely thinking about this, that we save it for budget season. That's the only time we're gonna be able to make a decision. There's no money in the budget right now unless you start robbing Peter to pay Paul. And we've done that already, and I think we are gonna have some issues coming up that money needs to be there, so.
If it's on your radar, then I'm grateful. If particularly with budget season, that's very appropriate.
And that's not that far away.
It's not.
Okay. So that's, that wraps up this agenda. So we need to review agenda items for our next select board meeting on September 15th. I assume we'll have a financial summary.
Yes.
Perhaps we'll hear back from fire chiefs.
Will we get that in time so we can review it and not the night of the meeting?
The financial summary needs to be in the packet next week, or yes,
Yeah.
in a timely fashion. Agreed.
That would be nice.
Yes.
Anything else right now we can think of? Gary will have an update. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's those grant applications we looked at today, and then there's a broadband program that a community. There's communication union districts that our town of Rockingham can become a part of that is working on extending the fiber and cable to the areas that aren't covered. So it would, Rockingham does have a lot of good coverage area, but there's certainly places like Saxon's River and up towards the Meeting House of Rockingham that would get repaired by this. And the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District is the one that most of the towns in Windham County have joined, and they're willing to come and answer questions. We could put a one-pager together for you, and they would be here to answer questions. And it would take a select board vote to join the communications district.
So, if I may ask, Mr. Chairman, what's the overall commitment financially and otherwise of joining this district when you're talking about?
Do we want to put this on the agenda? We're just
Yeah.
looking for reviewing the next agenda. And Gary was clear.
Okay.
Anything else right now we can think of?
Can we get an update on where we stand as far as the paving schedule goes? There's nothing mad up here on the highway update. Like know what streets are.
Okay.
done or
Paving
not
schedule?
done. I know Center Street was supposed to be done.
We're on the next agenda.
Thank you.
Anything else? Susan, anything you can think of right now?
Not at the moment. I mean, there might be things on to see this financial report. But,
Yep.
I mean, whether we need to start the discussion about revising our current budget before the year runs out.
Okay. Next joint board meeting, what's the date on that one? That could be,
That's the third and the fourth and the fourth, I believe.
Yeah, those really, at this point, it's the manager
yep,
search,
yep.
Thursday, Friday meetings, and I'm
This
sure
week.
you're going to have many, many more.
yep. So So that'll be manager search. Review and approve orders, bills, and warrants.
We don't have any in front of us to sign, do we? Or do we?
We don't have any here to sign.
I know I signed one the other day.
Got some emailed, so we're not, I wouldn't entertain a motion there tonight. Other business, Susan?
I'm all set for now, thank you.
Stefan?
Yeah, and I'm not directing or anything. I just think that the square, it'd be nice if we could have, or I hate to say it, but think about chip sealing the whole thing all the way up to where it ended the last time.
That's
Personally,
surely not in the budget.
For having it done, yeah, I understand it's budget, but I want to make the comment. And when I look at Griswold Drive and that project, in my opinion, having worked construction, et cetera, it looks really great up there. I've had a lot of people comment about that. And a good job by all. But that was done with the elements of ideal temperature, in my opinion, and ideal conditions. You know, perfect timing, warm weather, everything adhered. It looks really great. I wish we had had that here downtown. That's all.
Do we have any update on Barker Street
That's a good one.
property?
Yeah, the last the update we had was a week ago. They are attempting to have it all demolished, privately funded, and they're going to rebuild on site.
A week ago, that was a discussion? Their discussion?
Tony Gonzalez is his name, and
Okay.
he's working on that right now. I left it with him that any permits, anything he needs for assistance, we
Great.
would be there.
Wow, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Rebuild,
Peter?
huh? Yeah, a couple. Has anybody looked at the audit report, or have you even seen the audit report? I got one today. It open your eyes quick. If you noticed, when we did the town meeting, the town report said the 2019 expenses were unaudited. In that report, you'll see that they completed the audit in January of 2020, but we never received the audit until June 2nd of 2020. That's why they're in there as unaudited. I found that out. I was surprised. And there's a few other things in there that are screwed up, I think.
Yeah.
So there's copies at the, in both of the village too, the village audit's up there in the town office. You should pick one up and glance through it. It
Okay.
really open your eyes. Where do we stand with Hyde Hill funding? I know that you mentioned in your email that we lost a grant or something. Where
So-
does that put us?
We just had to revise the scope of work downward on Hyde Street. You said FERC? I'm sorry, I wasn't.
No, Hyde Street, yeah. You know, there was a grant that we didn't get. You mentioned something we didn't get.
Yeah, so it's like repaving will be done, but the original scope was a full depth reconstruction, and that just simply is not possible with the additional money.
I don't
and
know
that
what the grant, what was it, 64,000 or something, I think I thought, somewhere in there?
that thereabouts.
Yeah.
I think the big lesson, and one of the reasons that Andy and I talked about it and put it in there, was we just gonna. This happened with the other two recessions where the state of Vermont starts looking out for itself,
Oh, yeah.
and the towns are going to have to fend for themselves. So that's not what we want to hear. It's not what helps us, but it's inevitable.
And if I may make a comment, I probably shouldn't, but because somebody will say it's political.
You got anything else?
No,
Let me just go around, Stefan.
sure,
And if
sure.
you feel like you shouldn't, then let's not. Let's
Yeah.
just keep it a civil meeting. We had a great meeting going there for a while.
I'm good, I don't have anything.
I'm good too. And Susan, I started with you. So,
Okay, I just had one more thing I forgot about. The report back from Wyndham Regional on the traffic study. Do we have any update on that?
They are processing the data. I will try to make sure that data is available in the next packet. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just taking a wild guess, Chuck, but I don't think you have to hold that mic and get right up on it. So
Oh, really? Yeah, I have no
bet
idea.
it's pretty loud out there and.
Is it now?
It's very clear. You all are not so clear. So
Oh, apologize.
So
I apologize.
Susan likes the sound of my voice better
You
than
should
you.
see him. He's like karaoke.
and I can't hear some of the others very well.
It's good too. I wish you could see him.
Is that a result of your current sickness?
All right, so we have to have, we need to go into executive session to get an update on union negotiations. Susan, if you want to call my telephone.
Your phone?
Sure thing. And
So I'll email you a copy of these. I've got copies to hand out here.
Stefan will
Okay, thank
make
you.
that motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that I move to find that premature general public knowledge of labor relations and agreements with employees and union negotiations will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage
Negotiation strategy.
by negotiation strategies and labor relations.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Take care. Good night, everyone.
Mr.
Get
Chairman,
a second one.
I move that the board enter into an executive session to discuss labor relations agreements with employees, union negotiations, under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.